was the dead of night when a train rattled down the tracks, its windows spilling warm light into the darkness. A young man named Akihito Machida, only 24, exhales a long, bone-weary sigh that cracks the silence. He collapses into his seat, a hollow-eyed wreck, utterly drained after 33 straight, relentless days of work. He replays the office's chaotic storm in his head, clutching the promise of a day off tomorrow like a lifeline. His mind catapults into an idyllic fantasy of refreshing himself by camping in nature. Crushing fatigue yanks him under, dragging him into sleep. Sleep claws at his eyelids as the thought of finally crashing into his own bed consumes him. His consciousness plummets into the black maw of a deep, dreamless slumber. He rockets upright as the train slams to a halt, his eyes snapping open, wide with alarm. He snaps awake, panic detonating in his chest. He'd slept through everything and watched his stop fly by. He stands alone on the desolate platform as the train doors snap shut with a hiss and the train peels away. A ghostly wind rips through the pitch-black, deserted station as he wonders where he is. He cranes his neck to a battered, sun-bleached sign that screams Zoragi, a station he'd never heard of. Bleary-eyed and running on fumes, he convinces himself he must have boarded the wrong train. He swept his gaze across the station, unease coiling in his chest as he realized it was completely unmanned. Shrugging off the strange feeling, he snatches his phone and locks onto the map to pin his location. His heart plummeted as his phone flashed, out of service, leaving him stranded and utterly cut off. No timetable in sight, he storms outside to get his bearings. He plunges into the dark forest, his phone's dim flashlight the only thing slicing through the black. 2 hours later, he crumpled to his knees, swallowed by despair, hopeless and utterly lost. He snaps his head up, a single bead of sweat clinging to his brow as a sickening realization hits, something is terribly wrong. Far off, he catches a faint, ghostly glow spilling from the yawning mouth of a pitch-black tunnel. Clinging to the hope it's an exit, he strides toward the light. He plunges into the cavern, his phone's feeble beam a lone spear against the suffocating dark. An uncanny electronic chime slices the silence. He snaps his head to his phone, baffled. He's sure it's only the tide, then a white-hot flare detonates dead ahead, searing his vision. A titanic shockwave detonates from the tunnel, hurling him clean off his feet. The world shatters into a blur of light as he's blasted through the cold, empty black of space. He slams into an unfamiliar place, reeling and muttering that this must be a lie. He jerks upright on a jagged cliff above the crashing sea, stunned to find the world suddenly blasted into daylight. His gaze snaps downward in alarm. His suit has hardened into sturdy outdoor gear. He spins on his heel, scouring the ground for the tunnel he just exited. It's gone. He pinches his cheek so hard the jagged sting yanks him back to reality. This isn't a dream. He locked his gaze on the crashing waves as the terrifying reality of his situation slammed into him, and he accepted it. A sound split the air behind him, and a soft, hesitant voice dared to speak. He shot up, a sharp yelp ripping from his throat as he whirled around. His eyes slam onto a surreal sight, a pink, drill-shaped object levitating in midair. His breath hitched when a breathtakingly beautiful girl in an ornate dress, her golden twin tails gleaming, burst into view. He's utterly transfixed, every thought screaming that she's an incredibly beautiful girl. She rushes to his side, worry-lacing her voice as she asks, "Are you all right?" Ripped from his daze, he hurls himself into a deep bow and blurts an apology for staring while he was lost. She beams a kind smile and soothes him, insisting it's understandable after what happened. She swears a savage storm shattered her ship and washed her up ashore here. Akihito's blood runs cold as the truth slams into him. He's been talking to an actual shipwreck survivor. He bursts out that he came through a tunnel, and she freezes, eyes wide with baffled disbelief. He winces at how insane he sounds, rakes his hand through his hair, groping for the right words that won't come. Her eyes snap open and manners slam back into place as she realizes they haven't introduced themselves yet. She drops into a flawless curtsy and declares, Olivia of the half-payment Marquisate. He announces he's Akihito Machida, shrugging off her noble title as nothing but a theatrical persona. Olivia shoots, "Where are you from?" He says Japan, and the name lands like a foreign legend, completely unknown to her. She apologizes politely for her ignorance, and he thinks to himself, stunned by how kind she is. He snaps, voice razor sharp, "Do you have any idea where this island could be?" She announced she was racing from the Legman Kingdom to marry the Prince of Nissel. Marquisate Kingdom Prince, those fantastical names slam into Akihito like a whirlwind, leaving his head reeling. Olivia laughs, declaring they're both trapped in the same predicament, and the truth slams into Akihito like a gut punch. Horror claws up his spine as he realizes he's somehow wandered into another world. His mind rockets to a worn-out trope as he scrambles for the promised cheat skills that never materialized. A hurricane rips through him as he crumbles inward, roaring in his soul that no goddess ever came to grant him power. Olivia locks him to the present with a steady hand and quietly suggests they search for any other survivors. With his imagination on fire, he blurts, "Do jobs and skills even exist here?" She locks eyes and affirms it. Yes, they do, and with fierce pride announces her role, Holy Knight. He snatched his words back, stunned that the delicate-looking girl is enrolled in a physical combat class. She leans in, grins, and declares checking his own status is a cinch, egging him on to give it a shot. Heart hammering, he clamps his eyes shut and forces the words out, status, open. A glowing, translucent screen snaps into being out of thin air, knocking the breath from him. His eyes snapped open, disbelief slamming into him as one blunt word declared his job, camper. He gapes at the screen, jaw slack and mind racing. Camper. What kind of job is that? He rips open the status window, eyes snapping to his name, his one-of-a-kind job title, and the 5 starting points that kick off his journey. He plunges into the skill tree, eyes locking on a lineup of abilities he can snatch up with his points. His eyes slam onto a tab labeled Camp Item Exchange, and curiosity claws at him. What does it do? He devours the skill's details, heart pounding as he discovers he racks up points every day and climbs levels by camping. He tapped the item tab, and a sprawling catalog of camping gear exploded onto the screen, sending a thrill racing through him. Heart racing, he stares at his 5 points, torn between forging razor-sharp skills or blowing them on items for instant power. Olivia leans close, a sly smile lighting her face, and teases him, "Have you figured out your job yet?" His status screen still blazing, he blurts, "Looks like I'm a camper." Olivia freezes, brow knotting in disbelief. She admits she's never even heard of a profession like that. He practically explodes with excitement, declaring camping is all about plunging into nature and cooking over a crackling campfire. He leans forward, painting a night by a crackling campfire beneath a sky of scattered stars. Olivia watches, eyes glittering like embers. He bites his lip, face flushing, and admits every scrap of his so-called knowledge was pulled from endless online video binges. She snaps, "Don't sell yourself short." She sees untapped power coiled inside him, fiercer than he realizes. She clasped her hands, shot him a dazzling, radiant smile, certain he'd rise to greatness. He staggered back as her smile slammed into him like a lethal strike, convinced it could kill. She corners him about his skills, and he crumples, cheeks flaming, convinced she's dating a prince. He stammers an apology, confessing he hasn't assigned a single skill point yet. She locks eyes with him and warns, how he spends his points will carve the shape of his entire life here. He stares at his screen again, realization exploding. 4 points every single day is a slow-burning force that can change everything. As they set off, he slams a single point straight into his basic physical strength. They stride through a dense forest, sunlight spearing between the towering trees. Gnarled roots twisted into a snarled maze across the forest floor, thick undergrowth swallowing every inch. They scour every inch until they're spent, not a single sign of another soul. He snaps they haven't found anyone, as Olivia begins to stumble, drained by exhaustion. Seeing her falter, he flashes a confident grin and vows, "Don't worry, I'll fetch water for them." She asks if he knows water magic, but he jabs a finger at his item exchange menu. A blinding flash rips the air as he yanks a massive water vessel straight out of his menu. A pristine, brand-new 20-liter water tank, brimming to the top, erupts into existence right at his feet. He thrusts the spigot toward her, pride blazing, and proclaims, "This is the incredible power of a camper." Joy explodes across Olivia's face as she snatches the offered glass of fresh water like a lifeline and thanks them with trembling gratitude. Her grin snaps shut as a sudden, crucial realization crashes into her. She pivots to him, cheeks flushed and eyes sheepish, and asks, "Do you happen to have a cup?" Akihito's triumphant grin collapses into pure shock the instant he spots his simple oversight. Akihito freezes, eyes locked on the cup's price tag, calculating whether this tiny purchase will steal from their future needs. Olivia, pragmatic to the bone, barks, "I'm drinking straight from the spigot." The spigot twists open, and a precious stream of clean water surges to life. She leans in for her first drink, and the water blasts out, splashing in every direction. The noble woman instantly chokes, coughing and sputtering violently as the powerful stream slams into her. Red-faced and pleading, she begs him to avert his eyes as he extends a cup he just summoned. Regret rips through him. he didn't summon the more versatile Sierra Cup from the very beginning. Olivia, fully recovered, stares wide-eyed, convinced she's just witnessed a legendary skill. Akihito snaps that he swapped points. He never used a real storage skill. She snaps that his ability is a 1 in 30000 rarity. Only 1 in 30,000 possess it. Akihito gapes as he learns his simple skill is hailed as a legendary power in this world. He explodes with excitement, shouting that his item exchange power smashes past just water, it can trade anything. He slams a glossy catalog down and beams, parading every sleek piece of modern camping gear now at his disposal. Olivia froze, jaw slack, as the staggering possibilities he held slammed into her. Her jaw drops as the raw, shocking might of his camper job explodes into her world. This whole concept is brand new and electrifies her. A hot surge of pride floods Akihito, his cheeks burning. He's never received praise like this. The knot of anxiety he'd felt about his pointless job unraveled as fierce confidence surged through him. Purpose blazes in him, and he roars that they'll face this challenge together. His sincerity cuts straight to her heart, and Olivia, voice barely a whisper, asks, "Will you be my friend?" He snaps his agreement, flashing a grin as he asks her to just call him Akihito. They locked eyes and slammed palms in a firm handshake, officially sealing their new partnership and sparking a real friendship. Dusk slams the sky shut, and they explode into action, racing to ready themselves for the coming night. Akihito stakes a claim on a quiet clearing for their campsite. Olivia's eyes go wide. Camping is brand new to her. He dreads she'll panic. This sheltered noblewoman can't handle a night under the open sky. Fear, Olivia tosses it aside. She's electrified by the wild, heart-pounding adventure of camping. Tasked with gathering firewood, she bolts into the woods, excitement crackling through her veins. Olivia gathers the wood when the forest suddenly erupts into a thunderous commotion. He waits as Olivia's voice slices through the trees, calling to him. She returns, hoisting a log far too massive for a normal person like it weighs nothing. Akihito stands frozen, jaw dropped, as she hoists a massive log like a twig, her raw strength leaving him utterly speechless. He leans in, voice low and steady, and whispers that the wood must be chopped into smaller pieces to burn properly. Olivia locks onto his words, a cheerful, iron-willed smile blazing across her face. A sharp crack split the air as she ripped the enormous log in two with her hands. He gapes, mind spinning, as he fights to grasp the impossible scene he just witnessed. She grins sweetly, downplaying it as a mere basic Holy Knight skill, then announces with a flourish, bare-handed blade. He brands her drill, princess, in his head, baffled by the nobles of this world. Shock lances through him, then he realizes with a jolt he's not repelled. He's oddly impressed by her incredible strength. A sharp rustle in the undergrowth beside them rips the hush apart. Akihito whipped around, every nerve snapping to attention at the jolt of that sudden noise. A monstrous wolf-like beast explodes into the clearing, its savage roar slamming Akihito with raw, paralyzing terror. Olivia, cool as ice, names the creature a devil rat, and he staggers back, jaw dropping in stunned disbelief. She plants herself between him and the danger, snarling a fierce warning that its bite is lethal. She shuts her eyes, erupts into a chant, and draws a blinding surge of holy energy into her. Her eyes snap open as she belts the final line of the incantation like a battle cry. Akihito's eyes snap wide, breath caught, bracing for a thunderous blast of divine magic to rip through the air. She tosses magic aside, rockets forward, and with one thunderous punch turns the monster to dust. He was knocked flat, reeling from that savage, sudden burst of raw, bone-shattering strength. Olivia plunges into a low, formal bow to apologize, and Akihito stands frozen, utterly baffled. She cursed, watching the branch she'd wielded as a weapon explode into splinters the moment it struck. She berates her inexperience, and he grins, declaring the shattered wood perfect kindling. His eyes flash as he points to the whisper-thin, bone-dry kindling she made and declares it's perfect tinder. One spark and the blaze will erupt. Her dejection shatters, and a delighted understanding ignites behind her eyes. She crowns him the genius of the room. He flushes crimson and stammers out embarrassed denials. That encounter slammed shut any lingering doubt. Monsters are real, and they're stalking this world. He throws his head back, eyes devouring the forest, and with a wild grin accepts the truth. He's landed in a world of pure fantasy. It hits him like a punch. He must have a weapon of his own, right now, or he won't survive. Kindlings primed, now the real test begins. Spark the blaze to life. Akihito strides forward, grin fixed, and proclaims he'll be the one to light the fire himself. For a single point, he jabs the air, and a simple disposable lighter snaps into his hand as a triumphant grin splits his face. He flips the lighter open, explains how the spark yanks fuel into a blazing flame, and Olivia instantly declares it a magic trinket. He urged her to hurl more of her expertly prepared kindling onto the blaze. She hurls logs with slapstick energy, grinning wildly as they stack into a monstrous pile. Click, he snaps the flame onto the tinder. Flames leap to life, and they burst into triumphant cheers, celebrating the win they pulled off together. A raw, deep satisfaction floods him, the very feeling his corporate life had long since stolen. Adrenaline gone, Olivia collapses into somber silence, distress clawing at her. She drops the bomb, her betrothal, and Akihito reels, cheeks burning as he stammers out frantic apologies. They slump into a brittle hush as Akihito's mind claws at the strange stirrings in his chest. He narrows his focus on their situation and snaps his status screen into view. Guilt knifes through him. He can't ask Olivia to stand guard against monsters all night. He prioritizes protecting them right now over any meal. He snatches a scrap of resolve and braces to burn his last points to shield them. Olivia locks eyes with the crackling flames, swallowed whole by a whirlpool of her own thoughts. She pivots, snags his gaze, and the firelight melts her features into pure tenderness. A serene smile curls on her lips as she declares that, despite everything, she had fun. Her unexpected confession slams into him, leaving him reeling and utterly blindsided. She gives him all the credit. He turned their grueling day into something she never expected to enjoy. He replayed every insane moment of the day, savage monster clashes followed by the tired, aching work of pitching camp. A quiet, hard-earned understanding ignites in his eyes the moment he meets her gaze. He drinks in the fire's comforting warmth as a matching peace settles into his bones. He confesses in a low, raw voice that he'd felt the same about their day. A heartfelt grin blooms across his face, and he nods, agreeing with her. Their eyes lock, silence wraps around them, and an unspoken understanding sparks into a shared, glowing joy. He fixes his gaze on his remaining 2 points. Resolve snaps into place. Determined to protect their fragile peace, he locks onto the single skill he must choose. Olivia's eyes snap to him as his demeanor shifts. She pins him with a sharp, questioning stare. He sacrifices his final 2 points to pry open the base camp, blessing skill. He slams his palm into the earth with a thunderous crack and proclaims the clearing their official campsite. A brilliant wave of light surged outward, forging a shimmering barrier of protection. He straightens, vowing to throw himself into his new life and savor every wild moment of the adventure. Huddled in their new sanctuary, they feverishly plotted every move for tomorrow. Beyond the light's edge, pairs of predatory eyes glinted hungrily from the darkness, tracking their every move. The forest thrummed with unseen predators, and only his razor-sharp skill kept them chained to the shadows. Their tiny camp burned like a lone beacon, a stubborn island of safety in the boundless wilderness. A flag plunged into the soil, staking their territory and proclaiming his new identity and purpose. They'd finally secured their safety, and then a frustratingly ordinary problem reared its head. Akihito clutches his stomach as the realization finally hits: he's ravenous. He reels through the day's chaos, a merciless, grueling work schedule that left him spent before he even arrived. He clutches today's points like a lifeline, begging them to end their looming food crisis. His thoughts snapped to Olivia. He knew she had to be just as ravenous. As the campfire gutters into embers, Olivia's voice cracks and she hurls Akihito's name into the dark. She bellows. The flames are shrinking, getting smaller and smaller. Akihito spins, dread lancing through him as he pictures the catastrophe that will erupt if the fire dies. Olivia's eyes snap wide, terror flooding her as she pictures the suffocating darkness closing in. He sees her trembling, and realization slams into him. She must be terrified of the dark. She stammers, words stumbling out, that anyone would be petrified in a forest this creepy. Akihito's warm, steady smile cuts through the silence as he tells her, "It'll be okay." His face softened for a beat, and she froze, breath snagged, mouth opening in stunned, surprised silence. He explains, when the flames falter, stoke them with small twigs. He asked her to feed the fine branches onto the embers. Her hands feed kindling into the last glowing coals with a gentle, practiced motion. A sharp whoosh, the fire surges back to life, roaring bright and fierce. Olivia roars with joy as Akihito proclaims their success. She raves about his jaw-dropping camper skills, wide-eyed at the stunning result. Grinning, she hurls fresh logs onto the blaze, swearing she won't let the powder of fire win. She erupts into joyful laughter, rubbing a wisp of smoke from her eyes. Akihito watches her, relief crashing through him as her spirit snapped back to life. Seeing exhaustion in her eyes, he urged them to stop and rest. Olivia's demeanor snaps into sharp focus as she leans toward him. She pronounced, each word edged with ceremony, "She's the prince's fiancée, and she'll sleep right beside him." Akihito's brain short-circuited as her sudden, bizarre declaration slammed into him. She throws her hands to the sky and screams she can't possibly wield the hyper or a sword. A sly smile curled on her lips as she toyed with the thought, would being his girlfriend be wildly fun? Panic ripped through Akihito as he frantically insisted those thoughts were never his. She stumbles out an apology for the joke, cheeks burning. He grins and waves it off. Don't worry about it. Relief floods her. She smiles and calls him a fine person. A strange, prickly guilt twists in his chest. Akihito snatches an armful of dry grass and stuffs it into a makeshift bed for the night. Both of them collapse onto their own makeshift beds of leaves. Akihito's ears prick at her soft giggle, and he snaps his head over, eyes burning with a single questioning look. He snaps, "What's so funny?" and she confesses, laughing, that the whole thing hits her as wildly strange. She, marooned and starving, watches a reckless thrill flood her veins. A radiant grin flashes across her face as she proclaims, "Tonight is my first night of true freedom." Her heartfelt words slammed into the overworked salaryman, echoing through every tired bone. He agrees, relief surging through him like chains snapping as he realizes it's been ages since he last felt this unburdened. He looks up, his eyes snapping wide as a lightning bolt of awe crashes into him. He stood spellbound as the star-filled night sky stole his breath. He flashes a grin, drinking in the rare luxury of this breathtaking view, his alone. The next morning, blinding sunlight pierced the forest canopy and flooded the woods with golden light. Akihito bolts upright with a long stretch, while Olivia lies nearby, fast asleep. He inhales the crisp campsite air like electricity, grinning as he basks in how amazing waking up here feels. He rips open his status screen, eyes snapping straight to his points. A grin rips across his face as his special skill slams 4 fresh points into his tally. He clamps down on his points, refusing to spend a single one until Olivia wakes. He rockets to the tank to check their precious water supply. He taps the container and relief surges through him when his knuckles tell him it's packed to the brim. He crouched over the spigot when Olivia's voice cut through the silence, calling his name. She bolts upright, scrubs the last of sleep from her eyes, and fires a cheerful good morning, his way. Akihito's jaw dropped, time stuttered as he took in her without that iconic drill hairstyle. Heat flooded his cheeks. He spun away and faked checking his status again. He proclaims the water's been replenished and she can use it. The moment she's ready, he proclaims he'll whip up their breakfast. He swipes through his skill tree and his eyes lock on the knowledge, camp food option. He conjures mouth-watering feasts in his head, tasting every bite, then reality bites. The pantry is bare. He pulls the plug, no food on hand, so it's simply too risky. Olivia, dressed and styled to perfection, proclaims to him, "I'm ready." She burst back into full noble glory, radiance pouring off her and leaving Akihito utterly breathless. He reels, stunned as she snaps back to her usual self in an instant. He crushed the hunger gnawing at his gut and swore he'd fetch their meal himself. He fires up the food gotcha, desperate to snag something they can eat right now. He taps the screen, pleading for a no-cook meal. Drop a single point and bam, a small white cooler box snaps into existence. He and Olivia lean in, breath caught in their throats as the lid slams open. Inside, 2 convenience store rice balls nestled like tiny treasures, one loaded with tuna mayo, the other packed with flaky salmon. They sit down in Akihito's eyes glitter as he declares they look delicious. Olivia leans in, prods the strange triangular object and asks, "Is this food?" She lunges for a bite, plotting how to eat it without a single utensil. Akihito lunges forward, halting her in her tracks and showing her exactly how to peel open the plastic wrapper. She leans in, mesmerized, breath stolen, as he demonstrates the proper technique with razor-sharp precision. Hearts thundered as they lined in, poised to sink their teeth into the very first bite. Olivia pokes a trembling spoon into the unfamiliar rice bowl, then braves a tiny, cautious bite. Akihito dives in for a bite too, his eyes snapping wide and alight with pure delight. They both erupt at once, shouting that this humble meal is unbelievably delicious. Tears exploded from his eyes as the onigiri's flavor slammed him. He'd never tasted anything this divine. Olivia's senses ignited as the savory filling burst on her tongue and the seaweed snapped with crispy perfection. Akihito scraped the last grain from his bowl, gratitude swelling in his chest, but hunger clawed at him. He wanted one more helping. He flashes a warm, affectionate grin the instant Olivia asks if she can have another one. Breakfast finished, he declared. It's time to kick off their day's activities. His gaze slams onto the coast as he names their first objective. A towering column of smoke rockets into the sky from the signal fire they built. Olivia freezes, eyes wide. She's never even heard of a signal fire. Akihito snaps that lighting it could scream their location to any passing ships. He rattles off their next priorities: find people, scavenge food, and secure water. He even orders them to wash their clothes in themselves. He rakes his hand across his shoulder and blurts he's dying for a bath after 2 days. They plunge deeper into the dense, rustling forest. Vines snake around him and he thrashes like a trapped animal. Then Olivia steps in, eyes blazing, and snaps, "Back off, I've got this." She detonates her Vance skill, ripping open a crystal-clear path straight ahead. Akihito staggers back, eyes wide with wonder, as Olivia coolly christens it a lady's grace. She rockets to the front, laughing, eyes wide with awe at the raw power of her skill. Her elegant boot slams down onto the freshly cleared forest floor, sending a hard, echoing thud. They forge ahead into a hush. The woods hold their breath, and Akihito hears nothing. Olivia snaps her eyes shut and flips on her hearing enhancement skill, turning distant murmurs into razor-sharp clarity. Her senses flare outward, yanking sounds from far beyond normal range into razor-sharp focus. Her ear snaps to attention as she hones in on a distant sound. She tilts her head, catches the distant rush of water, and points them straight toward it. They tore through the trees, racing in her wake. They barreled into a sunlit clearing and found a crystal-clear stream ripping through the grass. Standing on the bank, Akihito's breath catches as the stream swells, stretching unnaturally wide. Olivia's eyes snap open when he drops the bomb. The river's course could be man-made. They tail the stream, muscles coiled and eyes sharp, bracing for the brutal terrain looming ahead. Deep in the forest, Akihito senses an ominous presence and steels himself, every instinct screaming to stay on guard. He clamps a hand on Olivia's shoulder, voice low and urgent. "Keep your guard up, we don't know what prowls these shadows." Trailing the stream, they stop dead as something strange looms in the clearing ahead. Akihito whispers, "What is that?" He spots several cleanly cut tree stumps, neat, deliberate slices, and knows someone's been working here. Olivia jerks her head toward the river. Felled trees have been piled into a crude dam, choking the current. She locks onto another clearing just over a small rise, and Akihito yells back. He sees it too. They both stare, jaws dropping as surprise and wonder ignite across their faces at the discovery. The clearing bursts open, exposing a quaint cottage snugly cradled among towering, whimsical mushrooms. Olivia gasped, "It looks like a fairy's house," and Akihito tossed back, "Way too small for humans." She squeals, eyes shining, that this might be the hidden home of storybook gnomes. A jolt hits Akihito. This house's resident is the one who felled the trees. A bone-deep creak rips the silence as the small cottage door starts to swing open. Akihito's eyes slitted like a blade. He knows they all have to brace for whoever's hiding inside. The door slams open. On instinct, Akihito yanks Olivia behind him, shielding her with his own body. A small two-legged cat in clothes carrying a satchel pops into view, eyes wide and just as stunned. The creature bellows that something has appeared, and Akihito freezes as a cat opens its mouth and speaks. Peeking from the mushroom grove, the tiny cat person sized up the two humans, whiskers quivering as it tracked their every move. Akihito's pulse spiked as he locked eyes with the creature standing upright. Was it a monster? He eyes it and from its appearance, forms a verdict in his head. It may only look like a cat, but it still steals the spotlight. The cat scoffs, calling them a strange sight, and Akihito snarls inwardly. That's his line. A larger cat strides out and snaps at the first to calm down. The new cat, a patch across its face, coolly sizes up the newcomers and declares them human. The first cat fixes them with a hard stare and snaps, "Are you really human?" as Akihito and Olivia look on. Realizing they can speak, Akihito's face lights up. He decides to be friendly and fires off a sunny hello. Tama, the first cat, rockets into joyful purrs. She's never seen a human's smooth face before. Akihito grills Buchi the patch cat about the transaction, and Buchi leans in to start explaining. Their jaws drop. Every month a ship sails to this island. Akihito's hope ignited. They might snag passage on that ship. Relief blazes across Olivia's face. She's certain they can now reach the capital kingdom. Buchi leans in, eyes sharp. "You here to trade?" Tama licks her lips and beams. "Humans bring delicious food." Akihito blurts out that they were shipwrecked and washed ashore here, startling the cats. Comprehension explodes across Bucci's face, and Tama's voice trembles as she pours sympathy over the terrible ordeal they'd endured. Relief surged through Akihito, the cats radiated kindness, like allies ready to leap to their aid. He blurted, "What's this place called?" and the two cats burst into a cheerful chorus, proudly proclaiming its name. They thundered, "We're Bucci and Tama of the Minion tribe from Marvel Island." Akihito reels, the cats are sacred beasts, and he's standing on their hallowed ground. He fires off, "Are there any other humans here?" and Buki snarls that the traitors fled days ago. Akihito forces out a thank you, then the truth crashes over him. The ship won't be back anytime soon. He clenches his jaw, vows to survive with Olivia, and throws every camper skill he knows at staying alive until help arrives. He whirls to Bucci and Tama, urgency crackling in his voice, and snaps, "Where can we find food?" Bucci lays it out. The minions fish, scour the wild and stalk prey, then swap every catch and foraged find for glowing stones. Akihito fires off a question about the stones, and Olivia's eyes blaze as she identifies them as valuable magic stones. The cats hiss that rare food lurks in the caves, but Bucci's voice dropped to a grave warning. Terrifying monsters lurk in the cave's darkest depths. Akihito is jolted by the news and instantly knows he must be ruthlessly careful. Bucci flashes a warm grin and offers to lead them to the fruit groves, and Akihito snatches the offer with a grateful, relieved smile. They shadow the two minions as the pair slip away from the whimsical mushroom village. The group tears through the forest's dense, rustling foliage. Olivia and Akihito stride down a clear path, hearts blazing with gratitude for all the help that brought them here. The cats leaned close and revealed a nearby waterfall, a thundering cascade where they could bathe. Olivia's defenses crumbled as their kindness wrapped around her like a warm cloak, easing the ache in her heart. Akihito snapped, "The ship's not coming back for a little while." A shadow crawls over Olivia as she clenches her jaw. She knows she must return, or her family's name will be ruined. She warns that her fiancé, the Prince of Nissel, might already believe she bolted from their engagement. She refused to let that misunderstanding crush him. Akihito leaned in, hanging on every word as a sharp new idea sparked to life in his mind. He watches Olivia's smile falter whenever the wedding's mentioned and knows she isn't excited to get married. A thunderous roar begins tearing through the trees ahead of them. They rounded the bend, and the magnificent blue waterfall Bucci had described crashed into sight, its thunderous rush and blue spray knocking the breath from them. Akihito blurts that he needs to scrub his hair and wash his whole body. Olivia reels, eyes wide. She gapes, incredulity sparking in her voice. "You're actually going to bathe right here?" He meets her stare and nods, calm and certain. Olivia's face explodes into a crimson blaze at the mere thought of bathing out in the open sun. She'd rather vanish than be seen. Akihito beams and, in a soft but urgent tone, urges everyone to stay clean to ward off sickness. She understands his reasoning, but hesitation seizes her and she flushes, stumbling over her words. He squeezes her hand, voice blazing. "It'll be fine, you're engaged to the prince." She snapped, cold as a blade, "Spy on me and I'll force you to take your own life." Akihito froze, stunned, as she explained it was just something her mother used to say. He flashes a grin and calls out, "Hold on, I've got something that'll help." He snaps and a one-point towel set explodes into existence. Towels, toothbrushes, and razors materialize in his hands. Olivia clutches a toothbrush like sacred treasure, all lighting her face as she asks, "What kind of gear can a camper get?" He cracks a mischievous grin and declares he can summon only things directly related to camping. He declares he'll wait behind a towering boulder, and she clutches the towel like a lifeline, relief flooding her face. Sudden, violent splashes tore through the silence, echoing from the tranquil pool cradled at the waterfall's base. Olivia slides her hand into the cool, crystal-clear water, fingertips parting the surface like a whisper. She confesses to herself she'd never pictured bathing beneath the open sky. She melts beneath the water, her long hair fanning out like a dark halo as a blissful sigh slips from her lips. Akihito perches like a patient predator, sitting with his back pressed against the hulking rock formation as he waits for her. A grin blooms across his face as satisfaction surges. She's clearly reveling in her bath. He gapes at her iconic drill hairstyle, baffled. How could anyone possibly wash those towering spirals? Suddenly his mind flashes a hilarious image of her wrestling a washboard with a feisty stick, arms flailing and fierce determination written all over her. Olivia's voice ripped through the forest, "I'm ready." Akihito whips around as she slips out from behind the rock, breathless and apologizing for the wait. He flashes a grin and declares, "It's my turn to bathe now." Hair let loose around her shoulders, Olivia snapped, "I'm going hunting," while he washes. Her declaration exploded out of nowhere, jolting Akihito into stunned silence. Heat floods his cheeks as he nods, urging her to watch her step as she heads out. He blurted, "You're really going hunting." She flashed a bright smile and nodded. She snaps that with her stamina restored, she won't keep leaning on him anymore. He explodes in protest, insisting she's already done so much to help him. She shuts him down mid-sentence, fire in her voice as she swears, "I'll get the meat for dinner." Crushed by the pressure, Akihito concedes, hands her the reins, and says they'll meet at base camp. She grins in agreement, joy sparking across her face, and he smiles back, trust shining in his eyes. She flashes a cheerful goodbye. He wishes her well, awe crashing over him. She hunts too. His clothes and boots lie abandoned on the shore as he steels himself to plunge into the water. He drenched his head with cool water and exhaled, relief crashing through him. He throws his head back and roars, savoring the pure bliss of finally being properly clean. The bushes right beside him explode into a deafening rustle. He snapped his head around, pulse jackhammering, animal or monster. Panic surges through him as the brutal truth hits. Without Olivia, he's an utterly defenseless salaryman. Plunged into the waterfall pool, Akihito's fingers fly across his status screen, panic sparking with every swipe. It slams into him. A proper axe for machete costs 5 points, far more than he has. A sudden rustle in the bushes yanks his focus, slamming home that danger never lets up. He elevates food and laundry to top priority. They turn into urgent missions the moment Olivia comes back empty-handed. He towels himself dry, a fierce question burning in his chest. Has a noble like Olivia ever had to do laundry? His thoughts slam into her family's troubles, picturing a tidal wave of anxiety crushing her. Now dressed, he spins to Olivia and spits out the truth. She saved him. He wouldn't have made it alone. He swears he'll banish her fears by any means before the rescue ship arrives. The thought of the ship crashes over him, shredding his certainty. He's lost and has no idea how to get home. He shakes off his worries, locks into the present, and charges toward the fruit grove. No time to waste. He's racing the dying light to snatch food before night swallows the sky. He tears through the undergrowth, heartbeat pounding. He knows he's almost at the spot Tama described. He bursts into the clearing, stops dead, and tilts his head skyward, gaping at a lone, magnificent fruit tree that steals his breath. Juicy mangoes dangle from the high branches like golden bait, glinting with temptation. He spots them and knows they're mangoes. He stands rooted at the massive trunk's base, eyes snapping skyward as his mind races. How could he possibly get them? He sizes up the slick, featureless bark and instantly writes off any chance of climbing it. He fumbles for a tool to help, then a razor-sharp crack from above yanks his gaze skyward. A sudden, piercing squawk rips through the air. He jolts, snapping his head up with eyes blown wide in raw surprise. He whips his head around, pulse spiking. Did a bird really just roast him, or was he imagining it? A vicious squawk tore through the air again, proof he wasn't imagining it. Shock rips through him as two massive, menacing birds with bandanas stare down from a branch. He gapes, disbelief roaring through him as he scrambles to grasp what kind of creatures stand before him. One bird shot its chest out like a dare, bristling with aggression and ready to seize dominance. The creature plunges to a lower branch, its eyes boring into him with a cold, predatory glare. It hits him, the bird's chirp sneers, small fry at him, and annoyance flares. The bird thrusts its chest forward, chirping as if it's staring him down. Akihito froze, the insult stung, but the creature's mouth, so shockingly filthy it made his skin crawl, stunned him even more. Perched above like smug kings, the birds taunt him, jeering at the small fry, "You want our fruit." They pounce on the mangoes right in front of him, devouring them with loud, greedy smacks and satisfied moans. He leaned into diplomacy and politely asked if they'd be willing to share. One of the birds tilts its beak down at him, scoffing, and snaps, "What's in it for them?" He clasps his hands, voice fierce. "I have nothing to offer now, but I swear I'll repay your kindness one day." The birds scoff, beaks clicking in disbelief, utterly unmoved by his hollow promise. The smug bird sneers, daring him that it might consider his request only if he begs. Akihito staggers as the creature's poisonous personality, his twisted plan, and the wreckage he left crash over him. A cold truth slams into him. They're not here to help. They came to jeer at him and drag him through humiliation. He clenched his jaw, shrugged, and tuned out the obnoxious bullies, letting their taunts die in the air. Fed up with being ignored, the bird snaps, "Get lost if you don't want the fruit." He strides away as a flock of birds explodes overhead, their mocking cries of "small fry" ringing through the sky. They sneered at him for thinking they'd help and spat, starved to death. Crushed, he gambles on the food gotcha instead of confronting them. A sudden snap in the woods jolts him, and a voice cuts through the silence. "What's wrong?" Bucci flashes a grin, "You came for mangoes," and spots the weariness carved into your face. Relief crashes over Akihito, his face exploding into a joyful grin the moment he spots his friendly minion acquaintance. He rants about a hair-pulling clash with two foul-mouthed birds that unloaded a non-stop barrage of insults. Beauty snaps, naming the culprits, members of the Albert tribe, another ferocious group of sacred beasts. Bucci spits out their notorious liars with volcanic tempers, and Akihito understands completely. Bucci barks humans can't climb, and Akihito bites out that it's his own weakness. Bucci sighs, resignation curling in his chest, squares his jaw, and charges in to fix the problem himself. Bucci springs up the tree like a shadowy cat, every move effortless as Akihito whoops and cheers him on. Bucci barrels back, his jacket straining under a dazzling haul of juicy, sun-ripened mangoes. Akihito pours out grateful thanks, pledging to repay him. When Bucci's eyes flash, he's got an idea. Bucci declares he's craving mat and clams. Akihito echoes the unfamiliar name, tasting each syllable like it's from another world. Bucci's description of the long, thin clam sparks something in Akihito. His eyes snap open. He knows exactly how to catch it. Akihito swears he'll snag the clams, and Bucci grins, waving him off, no rush. Electric with purpose, Akihito shot toward the sea. He crams mangoes into his jacket, slings it over his shoulder, and dashes to camp to drop them off first. Waves slam the shore in a steady drumbeat, heralding his arrival on the beach. He strides along the wet sand, the ocean unfurling before him into a glittering, endless expanse. His gaze rakes the ground and snaps to the tiny, neat holes that betray the clam's hiding spots. He slams into a crouch, a TV segment exploding in his head that showed exactly how to catch them with salt. A bolt of clarity rips through him. The first thing he needs is salt. He stares at his status, 2 points left, and the only thing he can spend them on is a single bag of salt. He nixes the purchase and rigs a clever, sustainable solution instead. He sacrifices his last 2 points to yank a sturdy metal cooking pot straight out of his menu. He hoists the pot high and bellows he'll wrest salt straight from the sea himself. A flash of his old science lessons sparks him into action. He rigs a crude little furnace out of nothing but stacked rocks. He crunches the numbers. 2 liters of seawater should squeeze out roughly 60 grams of salt. His first attempt to light the damp kindling sent a choking wall of thick smoke slamming into his face. He hacked and sputtered, his body convulsing as he frantically swatted the smoke from his face. He clawed at the sting in his eyes, desperate for a 1-point fire starter he could hand to Olivia. His heart drops, the kindling soaked through. He'll have to sprint off and hunt down more dry wood. He lets out a furious sigh, frustration snapping through him as the realization hits. This is going to take forever. He crumples to his knees, defeat crushing him and convinced he's letting Bucci down. A flash of Bucci's kindness hit him and his jaw dropped. He never expected a favor back. A steely look of determination ignites across his face. He refuses to give up. He clenches his fists, a white-hot vow roaring inside him to repay his friend's kindness. Fueled by a fierce second wind, he bolts into the forest and back, hauling armfuls of firewood. Hours blur as he stokes the flames, driving pot after pot of seawater to a furious boil. He slammed his fist and swore he'd craft the salt his friend needed. No failure, no excuses. At last, after a grueling ordeal, he watches the water thicken as salt crystals bloom across its surface. He hoists the pot like a trophy, flaunting the tiny, rock-hard mound of salt. He snatches a tiny pinch to his tongue. Salt explodes. It's delicious, so he steels himself to wait. Exhaustion hits him like a freight train. He crashes onto the sand and surrenders to rest after his hard work. He gazes out at the ocean, eyes bright as he soaks in the pure, simple thrill of creating something with his own hands. He steels himself and vows to haul in the clams tomorrow. It's getting late and Olivia will be back. He storms back into camp and finds Olivia ghost pale, her hair hanging limp from sheer exhaustion. He reels, shock slamming into him as he stares at her defeated, sickly figure, desperate to know what happened. He lunged to her side, shouting her name and snapping, "What's wrong with your drills?" She drops her gaze, shame coiling in her chest, and pours out frantic apologies for failing the hunt. He soothes her, whispering that she doesn't need to apologize. It's okay. She admits she stumbled on a deer, but it was a holy night. She couldn't bring herself to strike it down. Akihito urges her to stop tearing herself apart. his voice steady because he sees how trapped she feels. He thrusts the mangoes from Butcha into her hands, daring their sweetness to shatter her gloom. He grins and tells her they can eat one now, stashing the rest for breakfast tomorrow. He snaps into action and peels one for her, the thought slamming into him, she might never have done this herself. He sinks his teeth into the fruit and takes a massive, satisfying bite, sweet juice bursting out, just to show her. His eyes snap open with pure delight, and he belts, "This is the most delicious mango I've ever had." Olivia's eyes snap to him as his explosive enthusiasm steals her sadness for a heartbeat. He thrusts the mango toward her, eyes blazing, daring her to taste its insanely juicy, irresistible sweetness. A soft gasp escaped Olivia as she tentatively sank her teeth into the mango Akihito offered. Surprise exploded in her eyes as she whispered, "This is delicious." Seated by the fire, she locks eyes with him and lays bare her truest words. Akihito notices she's still weighed down, her usual vibrant spark snuffed out. He chews, brains sprinting to cook up something, anything, to make her smile right now. His face hardens into iron resolve. He sets out to snatch up as many clams as it takes to lift her spirits. A lone, ominous raindrop slammed into the parched ground at his foot. A second cold drop slaps his cheek, and he wonders, could it be starting to rain? In an instant, the sky rips open, dumping a brutal, torrential downpour over everything. Akihito bellows, "Olivia, are you okay?" as she shields herself from the stinging rain. A deafening hiss, the deluge lunged and snuffed their precious campfire in a heartbeat. Akihito vows to summon a rain shelter and tells her to hang on for a moment. He blazes through the menu, memory snapping to the lone item priced at a single point. He snapped his fingers and conjured a massive blue tarp, roaring that it would keep them dry. He snatches a sturdy branch and plants it hard, turning it into a makeshift tent pole. Struggling to pitch the shelter, he looks up to find the fire snuffed out, only cold ash where the flames should be. Realizing the darkness will only drag her down, he jerks as a sudden noise rips through the silence. Olivia lunged at him, clutching his shirt like a lifeline, her grip desperate and unyielding. Akihito freezes, confusion splintering across his face at her sudden move. Olivia plunges her face into his chest, vanishing from the world that surrounds them. He drops his gaze to her trembling form, panic shredding his voice as he gasps, "What's wrong?" Rain hammers them as Akihito pulls her close, feeling her hand claw at his shirt and squeeze tighter. He scans the storm-lashed clearing, rain slicing the air and thunder cracking above, utterly bewildered by what's unfolding. A jolt slams into him. Something is terribly wrong with Olivia. He leans over her, worry blazing in his eyes, and presses again. What happened? He feels her body violently racked by tremors and snaps. "Are you all right?" A strangled whisper clawed out of her as she murmured about the suffocating darkness. Truth hits him like lightning. Her fear isn't the rain, it's the dark itself. He yanks her under the tarp, alarm exploding as he realizes her fear isn't normal. He grabs her hand, voice fierce with conviction, vowing everything will be all right now. He steadies the shelter with a fierce grip, vowing he's right there beside her. He hunkers beneath the tarp, anxiety clawing at his chest, while the storm rages on with no sign of relenting. He peeks inside and his breath stops. Olivia is still huddled, trembling uncontrollably. He stares at her shivering form, helplessness carved deep into his features. He clenches his fist, helpless fury coiling, as he stands useless against the pain tearing through her. In a flash, an alien heat rips through him, raw energy crackling through every fiber of his being. He gapes as the new power surges, pulse hammering. Could it be exactly what he suspected? A bolt of clarity shoots through him, camping just leveled him up. Seeing his points fully restored, he flashes Olivia a fierce grin and swears everything's fine now. Terror swallows Olivia whole, her body trembling as she buries her face in her hands. A brilliant flash rips open the darkness, and a solar-powered lantern worth 2 points snaps into existence. He thrusts the lantern toward her, voice raw as he apologizes for taking so long to get a light. Olivia lifts her gaze slowly, tears catching the light as her eyes bloom wide at the comforting glow. He offers a soft, steady smile and promises she can rest. The light will not fade. Tears of gratitude sparkled in her eyes as they locked onto his kind face. He plants the lantern at her side, its light a beacon of safety slicing through the darkness. The next morning the storm had fled, and a blindingly bright, cloudless sky stretched overhead. Sunlight spears through the canopy as rain clings to leaves, launching jeweled droplets that drum from their freshly washed edges. Akihito explodes into a wide stretch, recharged and buzzing after a night's rest. He plants his feet like a beacon, throws back his chin, and bellows that the sky is clear. Today will be a good day. He watched the lantern's glow wash over Olivia, melt her panic, and lull her into sleep. He watches her sleeping form, a cold knot tightening in his chest as he wonders if the dark still haunts her with old wounds. He bit back every question and swore to wait until she chose to tell him herself. He swore that for as long as she stayed on the island, he'd make sure she never stopped smiling. His points snap into focus. He steels himself to unleash them for her, then a sudden interruption rips the moment apart. A new screen explodes onto the display, a skill point roulette he can slam and spin the moment he levels up. He realizes with a jolt, every 2 days of camping buys him one spin of this roulette. He slams the start button, pulse racing as he dares fate. The wheel blurs into a furious spin as he wills a mountain of points into his score. He roared, smashed the button, and the spinning wheel ground to a halt. The wheel slams onto 19, and he erupts in a wild cheer as his total rockets to a whopping 24 points. Newfound wealth burning in his hands, he snaps up the camp food skill first. A soft light surges, wrapping him as the new ability snaps into place. He erupts into a triumphant cheer again as Pro of Preparation unlocks, transforming him into a skilled cook. Armed with that new skill, he can whip any game Olivia brings back into perfect, battle-ready shape. He channels his last points into camping gear, every one reserved for Olivia. He aches for her to be happy, desperate to spare her from ever feeling that kind of terror again. Olivia slumbers on, curled into a tight ball, clutching every scrap of warmth like a lifeline. Dawn broke over a silent campsite as the fire crackled peacefully, tossing warm sparks into the pale morning light. Olivia snaps awake, cheeks burning with mortification, and stammers a shaky apology for her shameful display. Akihito fires a bright good morning at her as she peeks out from the shelter. He brushes it off, tells her not to worry, then leans in and asks if she's okay. He ripped off the cover and flashed a gleaming brand new 10-inch tarp he'd bought to cheer her up. He reveals the tarp's pulsing, magical glow and beckons, "Come, let's build it together." Olivia's breath catches as the truth hits. He bought every one of these just for her. He dives into making breakfast first, salvaging leftovers and snatching his food, gotcha. The gotcha jolts to life and spits out a box of instant clam chowder powder. He also conjures a full outdoor cookware set and rigs it up to cook a proper meal. Olivia lanes in, spellbound, as he pours the strange powder into the bowls. He tilts the kettle and pours a rush of hot water, steam coiling up like a warm, impossible invitation. He thrusts a steaming bowl into her hands, urging her to stir it vigorously and savor the intoxicating aroma. She dares a tiny, trembling sip of the warm soup. Her eyes ignite with pleasure as she whispers, "It's delicious." She closes her eyes and lets the soup's warm, calming rush wash over her. Akihito drinks her in, a warm, gentle smile curving his lips as pure happiness swells at seeing her at peace. Electric with new energy, Olivia roars that she'll pitch the tent and take on every bit of the heavy work herself. Akihito's eyes flare as her spirit surges back into her, joy explodes through her, and she grins, eagerly agreeing to begin. They move in sync as Akihito guides her hands, teaching the knot that secures the tent. Olivia's heart explodes with excitement as she plunges into the new experience, a forbidden novelty she'd never been allowed. Akihito pictures her life as a suffocating cage. She's barred from cooking, barred from cleaning, barred even from dressing herself. A sharp pang of sympathy rips through him as he pictures how suffocating her life must have been. One last heave and the tent snaps into place. They step back, grinning like heroes as pride roars through them. Olivia's breath caught, eyes wide with wonder as she whispered, "This is the first tent I've ever built." Akihito locks eyes with her, a soft, knowing warmth glowing in his gaze. He grins and urges, "Come on, let's race to the beach right now and dig for clams together." They burst onto the shore as gentle waves lapped at the sand. Akihito drops to one knee, voice razor-sharp. Step 1, find a small hole. He demonstrates by pinching salt between his fingers and flicking it into the hole, baiting the clam to edge out. A razor clam rockets out of its sandy burrow with a fierce whoosh. Akihito snatched it in a flash, triumphantly hoisting their first catch high. Akihito hoists the clam he just snatched into the air, grinning like he'd plucked a treasure from the sea. He grins at sparkling-eyed Olivia and dares her to step up and try it. She's hooked in a heartbeat, shouting that clam digging is an absolute blast. She bolts across the sand, snatching clams in a blur. The game screeched to a halt the instant they spotted the salt was gone. He crunches the numbers and the cold truth hits. Their meager haul won't carry them far. Olivia spun to face him, her resolve hardening into something fierce and unyielding. She snarls, "I'll just dig," slams her hands into the earth, and rips a seismic blast of raw power into the sky. A cascade of clams slammed from the sky, freezing Akihito in his tracks with eyes like saucers. They finished the job, the pot bulged, packed to the very brim. They hauled up a mountain of fresh razor clams, way more than they'd ever expected. Joy exploded in Olivia. They could finally give their minion friends the proper thanks they'd been waiting for. Olivia rockets off to fetch the minions, while Akihito dives into prepping the clams. He opts to unleash his proof of preparation skill and crush the task. In a heartbeat, his practiced hands blitzed through the pile, scrubbing every single clam spotless. He plants himself at the camp's edge, eyes locked on the trail, waiting for the others to return to the camp. Olivia bursts back in, Bucci practically vibrating with joy and Tama clinging to her side. Grinning ear to ear, he flings open the doors to the massive hall of fresh clams and proudly reveals its cavernous, clam-packed splendor. He shrugs off the praise and insists Olivia alone deserves every ounce of credit for the catch. Bucci barrels in, grinning, thrusting a colossal block of butter forward as a surprise gift. Akihito tosses a grin and challenges Olivia to grab the spatula and cook the clams herself. She bites her lip and confesses she's never cooked a meal before. She inhaled like a coiled spring and vowed to throw everything she had at it. Clams hissed and spat in hot butter, the sizzle and rich buttery scent bursting into the air. Panic flickers across her for a heartbeat, and Akihito's calm voice grounds her. The mouth-watering aroma slammed into the minions, freezing them in breathless, hungry anticipation. Hands trembling, she thrusts the finished plate of butter-sautéed clams forward, steam spiraling and her heart pounding. Ravenous minions pounce on the banquet, tearing into the feast with feral hunger. They erupt into a single, ecstatic roar of pure delight. She swallowed her fear and dared to ask their verdict. They erupted into an overwhelming chorus of praise. Thomas's gratitude explodes from him, voice raw and sincere, as he thanks her for the unforgettable meal she prepared. Olivia's breath catches, tears welling. She's never experienced praise this heartfelt. Akihito beams and dares her to taste the dish she just cooked. Trembling, she edges the fork to her mouth and dares a shaky first bite of the dish she prepared. The flavor hits and a tidal wave of unexpected emotion rips through her. One humble, perfect bite slams into her senses with pure, delicious flavor, and she bursts into tears. Akihito's gaze snaps to the tears streaking her face as he rushes closer, voice urgent. "What's wrong?" She wipes her eyes in a blur, snapping that she's all right. She bursts out, grinning, confessing the first meal tastes shockingly delicious. Akihito locked eyes with her, a warm, gentle smile blooming on his face. He dares her to cast off her noble duties and leap into freedom. Freedom slammed into her, an electrifying revelation that ripped the lid off her world. He vowed he'd keep her secret safe. No one would ever hear it from him. A surge of freedom exploded through her as she realized she could do the simplest things, no judgment, no shame. A thunderclap of truth slams into her, she can be herself. He plants himself at her side, unshakable and fierce, backing every bold step she takes into her newfound freedom. His kindness hit her like sunrise, his sincerity cracking her armor and leaving her breathless. She locks eyes with him, gratitude blazing in her chest. She flashes a brilliant smile at him, gratitude blazing as she thanks him for everything. Her radiant smile detonates in his chest, forcing his heart to miss a beat. He grins back, warmth flooding his eyes, and confesses, "I feel the same." They steal a quiet second, basking together in pure, honest joy. Tears stream down her face, and the minions, utterly clueless, twist every sob into a hysterical misunderstanding. She hurls an explanation at them. They scoff and shut her down, calling her reasoning impossible. They gushed over her cooking and begged her to make another meal right away. Confidence rockets through her. She lights up and jumps at the chance to cook again. Relief slammed into Akihito the moment he saw her shining, with joyful, unshakable confidence. She throws her head back and erupts into a laugh of pure, unburdened joy. The joyous party roars on as everyone clamors for more food. Later that night, a strange sound exploded from the shoreline, shattering the hush. A hulking silhouette erupts from the ink-black ocean, ripping the waves apart. A sea lion beast perches on a distant rock, eyes locked on their camp. The next morning, Akihito sprang upright, utterly refreshed and buzzing with energy. He replays last night's clam party in his head like a highlight reel, grinning as the warm memory hits him. He rips open his status and sees 9 points pulsing, itching to be spent. He steels himself, crushes his doubt, and finally rips open a locked combat skill. Olivia's greeting slices through his concentration as he agonizes over which new skill to unlock. She presses a steaming, freshly boiled cup of tea into his hands, warmth blooming across his palms. He unveils his plan to learn to wield an axe. Olivia smirks, declaring she'll handle the swordsmanship herself. They lock eyes and vow to plug each other's gaps, a winning strategy. A wordless pact snaps into place, binding them together as partners. Plans set, they snap their focus to breakfast, ready to tear into the morning feast. He squeezes the lone banana, stomach dropping. One measly fruit won't keep them going. He slams the food gotcha, a container of potatoes thuds into his hands. Olivia leaps at the chance to cook again, begging him to guide her through every step. She triumphantly hoists the scrubbed potatoes like trophies, each one gleaming spotless. Grinning like a warrior, she storms the cutting board and cleaves the potatoes with thunderous chops. She leans in, pulse pounding, as the potatoes in the pot surge into a furious boil. He crowns the dish with the final pinch of their salt and melts in Bucci's butter. A simple but irresistible breakfast of buttery, potatoes sizzles, steaming and ready to be devoured. The fork plunges effortlessly into the perfectly cooked potato, sinking into tender, butter-soft flesh. They both sink their teeth in, grins snapping into place as flavor explodes across their tongues. They dig into a simple meal together, trading quiet smiles as a gentle peace settles over them. Akihito blurts that he's craving some meat or fish. Olivia's voice blazed as she vowed to bring home the meat for dinner. She bolts into the hunt like a shot, and he calls out a fierce, ringing good luck. Her example lit a fire in him. He vowed then and there to go fishing himself. He reaches the jagged shoreline, rod in hand, every muscle coiled and ready to launch the first cast. He drops into a crouch by the tide pool, a bucket clutched in his hand. He locks his gaze on a cluster of tiny crabs scuttling and fish darting beneath the crystal-clear water. Doubt gnawed at him, are these creatures even safe to eat? He races his mind through the skill tree, latching onto the perfect node and plotting the upgrade that will turn the tide. An uncanny presence ripples the air, and he snaps his head up from the water. He spots a sea lion beastkin perched on a rock, its gaze locked onto him. The memory of that brutal run-in with the bird's claws at him, leaving him on edge the moment he spots a feathered shadow. He swallows his fear, resolves to befriend it, and cautiously calls out to it. The sea lion shoots him a quick, dismissive glance, pure, bored indifference. It turns its back on him, snubbing his greeting until it dies in the air. Right as he surrenders, it cries out, a desperate little sound that instantly says it's willing to listen. On the jagged shore, Akihito bows and politely introduces himself to a peculiar sea lion sporting a tiny vest. He jabbed a finger at the tide pool and blurted, "Are those tiny crabs and fish safe to eat?" The sea lion's gravelly bark practically shouts edible, but every bite would be bland and disappointing, not worth savoring. Akihito flashes a grateful grin and tells the creature that even the tiniest morsel would be a feast. A bored grunt slips from the sea lion as it flicks its head away, oozing total indifference. It plunges into the ocean with a thunderous splash, instantly swallowed by the roaring waves. Akihito suspects the creature loathes humans, but he steels himself, snatches a rod, and casts his line anyway. He plunges his hand into the tide pool, fingers darting to snare the tiny, wriggling creatures. For a long beat he thrashed and splashed, water flying as his fingers scrambled for any hold, and every grip slid away. 10 minutes of relentless struggle later, he hoists a single minuscule fish into the air like a hard-won trophy, triumphant. He pumps a fist at his haul, then his grin dies. This method will take forever. He flung the fish back into the water, grimly realizing he desperately needed a proper fishing rod. A thunderous splash explodes as something thuds onto the rock beside him, jolting him. His jaw drops as he stares in stunned disbelief at a magnificent bundle of massive fish lashed together with seaweed. Reality snaps into focus. The sea lion's voice is the same, and it slipped away to fetch this for him. With a final sparkling splash, the kind sea lion plunges back into the ocean and vanishes beneath the waves. Gratitude hits him like a wave. Akihito cups his hands and bellows a heartfelt "thank you." Hoisting the pot of fish, he couldn't stop replaying how that kind creature had gone out of its way. He stares, those fish so fresh they practically gleam, while awkward gratitude knots his stomach at such a lavish gift. The bounty's too irresistible to hoard, so he bolts for Minion village. He bursts into the quaint village, tucked among towering, whimsical mushrooms. Bucci, the patched-faced minion, bursts into a warm grin, thrilled to see him visiting again. Tama lunged forward, practically bouncing, and demanded, "What brings you here?" his nose twitching curiously. When Akihito unveils the pot of fresh fish, the minion's eyes blaze with pure delight. They call him a master fisherman, but he just shrugs and says a sacred beast gifted him the skill. Butchai's eyes flare. He instantly pins the creature as a member of the Ishika tribe. He reveals the Ashikas serve the half-fishmen, their heads crowned with scallop shells instead of hats. A bolt of realization rips through Akihito. The sea lion he'd met was one of the Ashika. He leans in, voice tight, pressing for what the Ashika are like and whether they secretly harbor a grudge against humans. Buchi reveals the Ashika are a tribe riven by a tangled web of internal contradictions. Confusion slammed into Akihito, and he snapped at Butchai. "What do you mean by those contradictions?" Buchi's heart blazes with kindness and a desperate urge to help, but the instant people appear, shyness slams shut, and they can't bring themselves to reach out. They crave grilled fish, but every time they wrestle with a flame, their clumsy hands betray them, and they often end up burned. Buchi laughs at their inner conflict, locks their shoulders into a comically stiff pose. The minions urge him to be kind to Ishika, and Akihito nods, understanding flashing across his face. Back at camp with Olivia, he fired up the coals and turned the generous gift of fish into a sizzling feast. He activates his magical preparation skill, instantly transforming the fish into fire-ready fare. A perfectly clean fish waits on a wooden plank, poised for the fire to leap in and grill it to a sizzling finish. For just 1 point, he conjures a proper, razor-sharp santoku and slices through the prep like lightning. He's whipping up a steaming, comforting soup and plunging salt-grilled mackerel into it for his minion friends. As the fish sizzled over the flames, Olivia's voice tore through the air, calling his name. Olivia staggers back from the hunt, defeat dragging her down as a dark, suffocating aura of failure swallows her. He thrusts a freshly grilled fish into her hands. The sizzling, irresistible aroma instantly chases the gloom from her face. He confesses he didn't catch it himself, then insists they dig in while they talk. He bursts into a vivid tale of his strange, wondrous encounter with a kind member of the Ishika tribe. Olivia's eyes go wide as she bursts out about the jaw-dropping thing that happened to him today. He confesses he yearned to befriend the creature, but a cold fear whispered that it didn't like him. Olivia whips around, her face snapping into a hard, serious mask, and he's left completely blindsided. Her voice steals with iron certainty as she proclaims he'll befriend them. She guarantees it. Her absolute faith slams into him, his heart stuttering and leaving him hopelessly flustered. He swallows hard, struck by Olivia's gentle kindness and the fierce, unwavering way she believes in him. He bellows his thanks, vowing he'll storm back to the sea later to try to meet it again. He beams at their budding friendship, but a cold knot in his gut warns him that getting closer could be dangerous. He knows that the moment the next ship cuts the horizon, Olivia will be torn from the island. Just picturing their eventual goodbye already rips through them with a pain they can't bear. The campfire crackles like a ticking clock, each snap stabbing them with the truth. Their day of parting looms dangerously close. He snaps his head up, resolve igniting, determined to squeeze every second out of the time they have now. Olivia beams with fierce gratitude, thanks him for the meal, and swears she'll hunt harder than ever. They throw each other a fierce good luck as she charges back into the forest to try again. He tracked her retreating silhouette with narrowed eyes, resolving to stay cautious for now. A craving for Ashika's love-grilled fish explodes in him. He's determined to grab one and bring it back as a gift. Perched on jagged rocks, he scours the glittering horizon, hunting for any sign of his new sea lion friend. He finally spies the creature perched on a distant rock and bellows, "There you are." He creeps close, voice barely a whisper, offering a soft greeting to keep the shy beast from bolting. Still stunned, the sea lion recoils and darts back into the water, frantic to slip beneath the surface. Akihito snaps "Wait," and thrusts a steaming bundle of grilled fish forward, shouting that he brought them as a thank you. The sea lion snaps his questions shut, smirks, and proclaims the fish a gift. He asks if it dislikes fish. The creature snaps no and averts its gaze. He can't shake the idea that its snap denial is just a clumsy cover for secretly loving the fish. He places the offering down and proclaims the meal heavenly, his words pouring out with raw gratitude. The sea lion crept toward the offering, snuffled once, then seized the grilled fish and began devouring it. Akihito crouches close, a warm grin on his face as he watches the creature gleefully demolish its meal. He straightens, declares his name again like a battle cry, and asks the creature to reveal its name. The sea lion fixes his gaze on the open ocean and throws a soft bark across the waves. "Toby." Akihito bursts into a sunlit grin, pouring out thanks to Toby for finally revealing his name. Toby fires a shy, sideways glance, a satisfied smile blooming as he soaks in the other's radiant, happy reaction. He spins back toward the ocean, hungrily nibbling on his tasty gift. Akihito crowns Toby a kind, sacred beast for coming to his aid. Right then and there, he vowed to hunt down a fitting way to repay Toby for his kindness. They sit together when the ocean heaves, and a dark, menacing shape surges up from the depths. Beneath the waves, twin glowing eyes sliced through the black and fixed a hungry, menacing stare. A titanic beast bursts from the ocean, ripping the surface into a thunderous wall of white spray. A colossal shockwave rips out of nowhere, slamming into Akihito and Toby and leaving them staggered. Akihito dives low, flinging his arms up as a titanic spray of seawater slams over him. The creature slams into the ground as Akihito rockets forward, hurling himself over Toby to take the full force. He snaps his head up, shock ripping through him as a massive, tentacled monster looms directly over them. He snaps a rapid, worried "Toby, you okay?" and the sea lion answers with a faint nod. Toby snaps water from his head, annoyance flaring into a tight, razor scowl. The splash exploded, hurling his precious scallop shell hat askew. The shell pops free from his head and skitters, clattering across the slick rocks beside him. Toby erupts in a frustrated cry and yanks his prized hat back in one furious motion. In a flash, two sleek killer whales exploded from the waves, chattering with wild glee as they zeroed in on Toby. Akihito freezes, bewilderment roaring in his chest as the creatures exude a bizarre, mischievous playfulness. Toby snaps, "Stand back." The command only drags him deeper into mounting confusion about what's unfolding. A jolt slams into Akihito. Every single one of them are just pranksters, and he still can't make sense of it. Toby smirks and confesses he turned into a prankster, forged by the half-fishman's contagious mischief. Akihito staggers, his mind short-circuiting, as the sea lion spits out an absurd, nonsensical explanation. The giant fish dishes out a playful smack, catapulting Toby tumbling into the water. The ocean roils as a bizarre parade of sea creatures peels away and slips back into the deep. Akihito perches alone on the jagged rocks, watching waves crash as his mind reels from everything that just happened. Perched on the cliff's edge, Akihito bellowed for his friend Toby, "Are you okay?" Worry knots his gut. After that chaotic prank, the sea lion might not come back today. He still remembers that jaw-dropping moment, a colossal fish thrashing as killer whales tore the sea apart. Regret slammed into him. He'd wanted, more than anything, to properly thank Toby for the fish he'd brought earlier. The sea lion's aching confession, "I'm only half a person," keeps smashing into his thoughts like a storm-tossed wave. He plants his feet and vows to wait one more heartbeat, clinging to the hope his friend will reappear. He perches on the cliff, aching to do anything to help. Out of nowhere, a column of bubbles ripped through the ocean's glassy surface. Toby bursts from the sea, shooting into the air amid a thunderous splash. Akihito's eyes snap open as the same two killer whales from before barrel toward him, gleefully chasing him. He shouts "Toby" as the sea lion nuzzles him with a warm, affectionate bump. Toby slides back into the water, playful, mischief barely flickering at the corners of his grin. He shoots a quick wink, then vanishes into the churning waves. Out on the horizon, killer whales keep turning the sea into a wild playground, darting, flipping, and toying with Toby. The ocean raged, whipped into spray and chaos by their reckless play. Akihito scours the shoreline for a while, then finds only empty sand, his friend vanished. He locks onto a shadowy figure perched on a distant rock, pulse spiking. Could that be Toby? The creature whips around, and a bolt of terror rips through Akihito. A monstrous devil rat unleashed a savage snarl, its fangs beard. Akihito's eyes snapped wide, raw terror surging through him. Horror explodes through him as he realizes he's suddenly face-to-face with a deadly monster. Alarm bells scream. Olivia, his unstoppable protector, has vanished without a trace. Panic surges as he rips through his pockets, empty hands, no backup, totally weaponless and all alone. Razor claws gouge the rock as it crouches, coiling like a spring before exploding into a savage lunge. It lunged through the air, a mangy black blur snarling with pure rage. He catapults backward as the monster's jaws snap shut, razor teeth slicing the air inches from his face. He scrambles backward, his feet skidding across the uneven rocks. He still hears Olivia scoffing that those creatures were barely a threat. The creature's terrifying maw loomed inches from his face. He recoiled and spat out a fierce, absolute refusal. A cold truth slams into him. Unarmed, he doesn't stand a chance. The second devil rat rockets into the hunt, devouring the space between them. Panic rips through him, the truth hits, he's about to be caught. He screams for a strong weapon, fingers a blur as he rips open his status screen. The monster's jaws slammed shut the instant he made his split-second decision. A blinding flare detonates, and a heavy object snaps into being in his hands. He bellows a defiant cry as the weapon fully coalesces into an axe. He swung with everything he had, the axe slammed home in a brutal, sickening crash. He slams the weapon down again, finishing the monster as a geyser of gore erupts. The second devil rat shrieks, panic ripping through it, and bolts into the wilderness. Chest heaving, he stares as it slips away into the distance, disbelief coiling. Did he really drive it off? He crumples to the ground, gasping and spent, convinced he only just scraped through alive. His gloved hands still clutch the axe handle, shaking with raw, crackling adrenaline. He sinks onto jagged rocks, staring down the ruined beast he just toppled, the battle echoing in his bones. He thinks of Olivia. She would have cut that creature down without breaking a sweat. He clenches his fist, resolve blazing as he steels himself to ask her to train him for what comes next. He's sitting when a familiar head explodes up out of the water right beside him. Toby's voice cracked as he shouted Akihito's name, worry blazing in his eyes. The young sea lion released a tiny, shuddering sigh, worry gnawing at him for his human friend. Akihito spins around, shock jolting through him before relief crashes in the moment he sees him. His eyes lock on Toby bobbing in the water as a tiny chirp snaps him to attention. Akihito's face lights up. He practically explodes with joy, telling Toby he'd been hoping to talk with him. Toby narrows his eyes and, as if daring him, snaps, "Akihito, were you talking to me?" He scrambles up the rocks, jabs Akihito and snaps, "Are you injured?" Akihito shoots a quick grin, letting everyone know he saw the fight and he's okay, just a little startled. Toby blurted an apology, admitting he was too far away to get there in time to help. Akihito shoots a quick, grateful nod and asks, voice tight with concern, if Toba's all right after that prank. Toby grinned and confessed the elaborate prank was his wild, heartfelt way of thanking Akihito. Akihito's heart lurched when that strange, painfully sincere gesture struck him. Toby stands silent, eyes locked, as their friendship finally cements. A soft silence hangs, then Toby shatters it and launches into a new topic. He ducked his gaze and murmured, cheeks aflame, that the grilled fish had been heavenly. Akihito freezes, jaw dropping at the compliment, then shoots a stunned smile and blurts, thanks. A wide, genuine grin spreads across his face as he chirps to Toby, you're welcome. He vows to cook again, only if Toby hauls in more fish, and his friend nods eagerly. Akihito snapped, demanding to know why they'd called him a half-person. Toby's shoulders slump, eyes glued to the ground, hurt exploding in his chest as he asks himself why everyone keeps being so cruel. He leans in and declares that hats hold enormous importance for the Ashika tribe. They're the battle scar of adulthood, the rite of passage every member fights to earn. Everyone else has already claimed their hats. He's the lone one left standing hatless. He declares he swims farther than anyone, ripping through the sea, relentless in his search. Still only half a person, he clamps his jaw shut and swallows every complaint. He buries his head against Akihito's shoulder, defenses crumbling and utterly exposed. Akihito explodes, shouting that Toby is giving his all and isn't to blame. He leans into Toby and swears he's kind and tireless at his work, only plagued by rotten luck. Toby's jaw dropped as the man branded Akihito a strange human. The sea lion locks eyes with him, curiosity ignites and respect swells in its gaze. Akihito's mind hammered on one thought. To the Ishika people, that hat had to be a sacred, priceless treasure. A lightning bolt of insight cracked through his mind, unleashing a brilliant idea. He spun to Toby with a grin and shot out, "What kind of hat do you want?" Hearing the answer, the straw hat's eyes blaze. He knows exactly what to do. At a single point, a beautiful straw hat snaps into existence out of thin air. He presses the hat into Toby's hands, a gift to repay the kindness Toby showed him earlier. Tobias froze, eyes wide and brimming with tears, voice cracking as he asked, "Is that hat for me?" Akihito gives a steady nod, it's true, and the young sea lion nuzzles the gift, accepting it with shy, curious tenderness. He cradles the hat like a sacred relic, all blazing in his eyes. He lowers it onto his head with a feather-light touch. He throws himself into a proud, grown-up pose as Akihito whoops that it looks perfect. Emotion explodes in Toby as he thanks Akihito again and again. Gratitude hit him like a wave, stealing his voice and leaving words dying on his lips. Akihito's grin lit his whole face, joy surging through him as his friend gushed over the gift. He says he hopes they'll get to sit and talk like this again soon. Two friends perch shoulder to shoulder on jagged rocks, eyes locked on a sea that lies calm and glassy to the horizon. They sit on the sand, the sea's hush wrapping them as they drink in a serene, companionable moment. Perched far off, the two haughty Albert birds fix them with cold, suspicious stares. Back at the camp, Akihito hefts his new axe and hauls a heavy log to feed the fire. He brought the axe down in one thunderous swing and cleaved the log cleanly in two. A grin splits his face as his skill with camping tools takes the reins, whipping his muscles into precise, practiced motion. Triumph surges through him. At last he wields a true weapon. He stares down the long road behind him and counts the points he sacrificed to claw his way here. A smug grin splits his face, dawn breaks, and a level up is coming. Akita jabs a dramatic finger forward and bellows, "I'll spin the roulette for the points." Bleary-eyed Olivia tumbles out of the tent and tosses him a soft, sleepy good morning. Still groggy and off balance, she lurches forward as a startled cry tears from her throat. Her hand rockets down and accidentally smashes the stop button on his screen. They slam together and crash down into a flailing, tangled heap. Face to face, he leans in and asks if she's all right as she stammers out a shaky apology. Her eyes pop wide, embarrassment washing over her as she realizes just how close they are. She scrambles off him, spilling frantic apologies for tripping and invading his space. Akihito snaps his gaze to the screen and his jaw drops. He just won 36 points. With everything else secured, he explodes into a thunderous roar, celebrating his jackpot win. He unloads a torrent of gratitude on a stunned Olivia, who stands wide-eyed and utterly clueless about what just happened. Sitting on a mountain of points, he plows them into a full suite of healing skills. He summons a razor-sharp, master-forged multi-purpose knife for his preparation skill, the blade flashing into being in his hand. Olivia's eyes snap wide, curiosity sparking, as he unveils the new blade. Relief floods him with points to spare. He can finally buy them breakfast. He fires the food gotcha twice to score a proper meal for them. A mouthwatering club sandwich bursts into being before them, a dazzling stack of golden layers that begs to be eaten. He whoops with glee at his lucky break, while Olivia gawks at the mouthwatering spread. The gotcha spits out its second prize, a massive, plain white tub. He whips out the ice cream, and Olivia's face instantly lights up as she squeals that she loves sweets. Olivia panics it'll melt into a puddle, and Akihito beams, pitching the idea of splitting it with the minions. The sun blisters overhead, and she aches to summon ice magic to cut through the heat and cool everything down. A sly grin spreads across Akihito's face as he leans in and promises, "I've got just the thing for that." He conjures a massive cooler box inside the humming, magic-powered refrigerant pack. He called out to Olivia to charge the pack. She lit up and jumped at the chance. They burst into the whimsical Minion village, cradled among towering, giant mushrooms. Bucci bellows a hearty, warm welcome as they trudge up, lugging a massive cooler. The minions swarm the massive box, eyes wide, peppering it with eager questions about what's inside. Akihito beams, revealing he's brought a mouth-watering treat for everyone to dive into. Whisper delicious food and excitement surges through the whole village, racing from door to door. He flings open the cooler and roars that he has enough ice cream for everyone. The minions gaped at the strange white mass, hesitating as they wondered if it could actually be eaten. Olivia admits they've never tasted it, and Akihito's grin flashes as he says, "Then let's taste it." Beauty steadies himself, hoists the spoon, and bravely downs the first spoonful as the entire village holds its breath. Akihito and Olivia freeze, breath snagged in their throats, praying he devours the chilly treat and smiles. Bucci's eyes explode open as he unleashes an earth-shaking roar of pure delight. He erupts, delicious, and swallows his pride, admitting he completely underestimated Akihito. Olivia beamed, gleefully commanding her eager minions to snap into line. Her smile erupts as she discovers a brand new happiness and plunges headfirst into serving her friends. Akihito's eyes lock on her as it hits him. This is a brand new experience for her. Bucci flashed a cheeky grin, jabbed Akihito, and taunted, "Stop staring, grab your own bowl." The minions dive in with wild hunger, shoveling massive spoonfuls of the new treat into their eager mouths. One of the cat people relishes the ice cream's delicious, icy flavor. The whole village explodes into euphoria, everyone shouting it tastes like heaven. They howl for more, swearing it's so irresistible they devour it every single day. They hail Akihito as a god, worshipping him for the wondrous gifts he showers down on them. One minion erupts, shouting they should cast a bronze statue in his honor. Olivia explodes into giggles as she conjures a towering, majestic statue of Akihito, the ice cream god. Akihito's face flares as he blurts it's only plain eggs and milk. The minion's jaw drops, he gasps, "You mean I can really make it myself?" Akihito snaps, "Goat's milk will do, now all they need are eggs." Butchie's eyes flash as they comb every tree and ledge, hunting for any spot they might find bird eggs. Akita's blood ran cold at the thought that they meant those arrogant Albert birds, but Bucci scoffed and brushed it off. Bucci snaps, "No chickens here, just a different bird." Akihito gaped, confusion burning in his throat as he snapped, "What other kind of eggs could we possibly get?" Boogie's face hardens into a killing glare as he barks out their dangerous target, the rock. He spins a chilling tale of a monstrous bird towering over 12 meters, nesting 40 kilometers away. Bookie snarled it would kill anyone caught stealing its egg. The minions shrug off danger and roar that more ice cream is worth any risk. Thomas leans in, eyes blazing, and suggests ditching the egg heist, snatch the rock instead. Olivia piped up, eyes sparkling, grinning as she declared rock meat delicious too. The minions erupted in ecstatic whoops, mouths watering at the thought of feasting on roasted rock alongside towering scoops of ice cream. Akihito, Olivia, Butchai, and Tama forge a lean, relentless hunting party, every step crackling with purpose. Akihito breaks into a cold sweat as dread claws at him. He's haunted by the thought that he may have just committed a terrible, sinful mistake. He scans his preparations and ruthlessly picks the skills he'll master to survive the perilous journey. He slams a few points down and rips open the useful edibility judgment skill. He unlocks beginner's movement magic, an emergency teleport that lets him vanish and reappear in an instant to escape danger. Packs cinched and plans sealed, the small party stood poised to strike out. The four adventurers plunged headlong into the towering, shadow-swallowed forest. Butchai snaps at Tama to watch his step. The path twists into deadly treachery beneath his feet. Tama shoots back, "I'm always careful," unlike clumsy Bucci. In that instant Toma's foot snagged a vine. It wrapped him up and catapulted him into the air. Bucci blasts a warning into the air, panic ripping through him as he fears for his friend's safety. He roars they must sever the vine this instant, or it will crush Tama. A bolt of clarity exploded in Akihito's eyes. He knew exactly how to help. He strode forward with iron confidence and declared, "I'll handle it." He unsheathed his knife with a snarl and spat, "I can see exactly where to cut." He fires up his pro of preparation, his body tearing into a blur of motion. The thick vines snap apart in an instant beneath impossibly precise slashes. Tama hurtles to the ground, the dangerous trap missing its mark. She lands completely unharmed. Akihito dove and caught the dizzy minion, relief exploding in his chest. He'd actually saved him. Olivia barreled to Tama's side, finding her shaken but otherwise unharmed. The dominions erupt in gratitude, showering Akihito and Olivia with thunderous thanks for the lightning-fast rescue. Olivia raves about his swordsmanship, but he smirks and admits it was just him applying a cooking skill he'd honed. Suddenly, a menacing presence looms in the canopy high above them, freezing the air around them. A sneering voice spits, "You're prepping the minions to be eaten." Akihito snaps to attention as that maddening voice clicks in, then jerks his head up, scowling. Perched high above, two swaggering Albert birds sneer down, taunting them for having to rely on human help. Tama's cheeks flamed as Akihito blurted, "I wasn't going to eat you." The birds bolt into the sky, mocking with sharp cries, clearly not afraid of mere humans. Bucci snaps, "The sun's sinking, keep moving." Akihito gives a sharp nod, pivots, and strides forward down the path with them. Boogie jabbed a finger at the steep, jagged terrain looming ahead, right beside the nest of rocks. The party rockets into a brutal climb up the sheer cliff face, every handhold shaky and every step a desperate gamble. The Albert birds wheel overhead, feathers bristling, seething as the party ignores them. They launch a daring strike, dragging the party screaming into the fray. A hail of fruit slammed into Akita out of nowhere, and he yelped, blindsided by the sudden attack. Olivia slammed her strike, eyes snapping skyward as she realized the attack was coming from above. His edibility judgment zeroes in on the incoming projectiles and rips the truth wide open. Every single one of them is food. Akihito explodes into a furious roar, thundering that food must never, ever be wasted. Akihito storms through the fruit pile, sorting each piece with lightning precision and leaving Olivia and the minions gasping. The Albert birds snapped to attention, stunned and wondering what had just happened. Akihito seemed strangely different. Akihito spun to face the birds as a sudden, icy dread stabbed through his mind. A predatory glint flared in his eye as he realized he could eat the birds themselves. A glaring status screen erupts before the birds, branding them edible. They freeze, terror pinning them to the spot. The birds bolt for their lives, shrieking that they're moments from being eaten. Tom gleefully devours a banana, while Butcha gapes at the bird's lightning speed. Olivia erupts in praise, awestruck as Akihito's skinning skill explodes into devastating power. Suddenly the ground shudders beneath their feet, erupting into a brutal, spine-shaking quake. Akihito craned his neck as the mountain shuddered. Was this an earthquake? Terror exploded through Bucci. He screamed when he spotted the sign of an even deadlier threat. He jabs a finger at the sky, shouting the colossal rock is hurtling back to its nest. The ground rips and splinters as the gargantuan creature comes crashing down. It slams down, detonating a titanic shockwave that rips dust and debris screaming across the cliffside. The rock slammed down with a deafening screech, its monstrous bulk blotting out the sun. Akihito freezes, jaw slack, then explodes, shouting, "It's unbelievably huge." A second hulking boulder slams down right beside the first. A third rock exploded into view, its menacing eye burning down on the intruders. The three rocks screamed as one, fury ripping through stone, ready to defend their home. The shot slams into a single rock's enraged eye, its glare burning with murderous intent. Bucci screams, panic shredding his voice, yelling that they're in a truly dangerous situation. One of the rock's dives rockets down, razor talons slicing straight at the minions. Its titanic claws crash into the rock, ripping the ground apart with a thunderous, earth-shattering blow. A raw scream rips from Thomas as, convinced he's about to be devoured, he hurls himself for cover. He catapults into a razor-thin crevice, sliding into safety with a heartbeat to spare. Jagged rock talons whip past, missing by inches as the minions cram together, safe for now. Another boulder whirls overhead, primed to crash down and join the onslaught against the intruders. Its wings unleash a brutal downdraft that rips Akihito off his feet and hurls him crashing to the ground. Olivia hoists him to his feet and snaps, "You okay?" He stammers, words tumbling out about how massive it is. Bucci roared, "Akihito, fall back into the forest's cover." The party shot to their feet and tore after the minions, barreling towards safety. They barrel into the woods and Bucci snaps that the giant birds can't follow them. Huddled in the shadows, they spy all three rocks looming like stone sentinels around the nest. Olivia's eyes went steel-cold as she sized up the odds and snarled she could only take on one opponent, at most. Bucci snaps that a frontal assault would be suicide and urges them to hold back, then strike like lightning the instant an opening appears. Olivia's eyes flare with feral hunger. She lunges, desperate to take one down and claim that delicious meat. Bucci's eyes snap. He backs Akihito's call to put the eggs first, already sketching a battle plan. He realizes the minions slip into the shadows, but Akihito and Olivia loom too large to hide. Akihito slammed down his ace, a teleportation surge that rips him and one companion through space in an instant. A fierce spark flares in Bucci's eyes as he snaps, "I've got a plan." He yanks the party into a tight huddle, lines in, and hisses the opening gambit of his audacious plan. Three rocks rattled and skittered in their nest on the hierarchy cliff. One bird snaps its feathers into place, bracing to explode into flight. The rocks rumble with deep, guttural growls, then one tears free and rockets skyward. One rock's gone, now only two stand watch over the precious eggs. The rest of the flock snapped their heads as an eerie noise sliced the air. Shadowy lackeys hurled oranges that skittered and rolled to the nest's edge, a sharp, deliberate diversion. The rocks gaped at the fruit, dumbfounded that food had just materialized out of nowhere. Curiosity smashed aside their duty. They lunged in and started pecking at the oranges. Crouched in the shadows nearby, Buki and Tama whisper, electric with triumph, "The diversion is working perfectly." They hurled fruit nonstop, baiting the giant birds farther and farther from the nest. The rocks are distracted. Bucci snaps a sharp signal. Akihito's up to finish the job. Akihito slipped his head out from behind the rock and locked onto the split-second opening. His gaze snaps to the prize, two massive, pristine white eggs cradled in the nest. He slinks forward on silent feet, every step a whisper, his heart pounding like a war drum in his chest. He edges into the nest, gloved hand, poised over one of the colossal eggs. A determined grin cracks across his face as he snatches the egg, ready to bolt. He heaves, muscles burning, face twisting as its unexpectedly colossal weight slams into him. Veins bulging and jaw clenched, his face twists with effort as he bellows that it's crushingly heavy. Olivia bolts to his side, shouting what's wrong, as he frantically grapples with the egg. She steps forward to take over, ignites her body enhancement skill, and hoists it as if it weighs nothing. Their clumsy handoff erupts into a teeth-grinding scrape that ricochets off the cliff. One of the rocks explodes into a furious shriek, its stony head whipping toward the sound. Their heads snap up, horror igniting in their chests, as they realize their stealthy plan has failed completely. Akihito snatches his axe in a heartbeat, plants his feet, and braces to meet the monster's charging onslaught. Olivia shrieks a warning as the enraged rock barrels straight toward them. Akihito whirls to face the threat, grim resolve carved into his features. He roars Olivia down and yanks her behind him, throwing himself between her and the danger. He plants himself like a living shield, the final bulwark between his friend and the towering behemoth. The rock's beak slams down, hurling Akihito backward beneath an earth-shattering force. He quakes beneath the crushing pressure as the creature's overwhelming power slams into him. He staggers, stunned that just chipping one talon unleashed all this devastation. Olivia snaps, "We have to carve an opening if we want to escape." The rocket strikes again, plummeting earthward with terrifying speed and bone-crushing force. Akihito dives aside, roaring, "I won't let it have the egg." He vows his sole mission is to bring everyone back alive. Olivia freezes and locks onto him, eyes blown wide with raw feeling as his selfless courage cuts straight through her. The third rock hurtles back. Boogie feels the last second slam shut. He bellows the plan's second part, the signal cutting through the chaos. It's time for them to go home. Butchai's cry pierced the chaos and clarity slammed into Akihito. He knew, fierce and unshakable, what he had to do to save them all. He barked to Olivia, "Brace yourself, act on my signal." Olivia roars, channels her Vance skill, and hurls the egg straight at him. He snatches it midair as she screams that she's created the opening they needed. Clutching the egg, Akihito channels his movement magic and rips open space, arriving in a burst at the campsite. A searing flash detonated, ripping sight from the two bewildered rocks. They reappear at their camp, slamming into the ground and crumpling into a dazed, tangled heap. Olivia's eyes snap up, their tent stands there, and a surge of relief explodes through her. They made it. They seized each other's hands, laughter exploding as they reveled in their razor-thin, hard-won escape. Akihito collapses, utterly spent after pouring every ounce of strength into that titanic spell. They hurled shaky apologies at each other, then dread pounded in their ribs for the friends they'd left behind. Olivia ripped through the rest of the plan. They'd rendezvous at the Minion village. They threaded through the familiar, peaceful forest of towering, spotted mushrooms. Olivia's jaw tightened with iron certainty. She trusted the Minion's island savvy to keep them safe. Akihito's mind snaps to Butchai's secret plan. He trusts his crafty friend completely. Closing on the village clearing, they catch sight of their friends standing there, waiting. Buchi and Tama barreled forward, jubilation bursting from them the moment they spotted Akihito and Olivia, alive and well. The whole village erupts, cheering the hero's safe return as they hoist the hard-won prize skyward. Akihito flashes a grin and leans in, excitement crackling as he asks, "Butchai, what was your incredible secret escape plan?" Buchi thrusts his chest out and proudly proclaims his plan was to run. He explains the promise of ice cream steeled them all, flipping their jitters into bold action. Akihito burns 5 points and conjures a colossal, globe-shaped ice cream maker to kick the celebration into overdrive. Buchi and Thomas lock eyes on the strange contraption, pulses pounding as they wonder if it can actually churn out real ice cream. The minions pounce, whipping the rock egg yolk, goat's milk, and sugar together in a bowl. Akihito shouted for Olivia to unleash her magic and instantly flash freeze the device's refrigerant pack. Beaming, Akihito announces the final step, just roll the ball. The minion children explode with glee, shoving the giant orb across the ground as it spins and ricochets between them. Olivia freezes, transfixed by the heartwarming scene as the minion's irresistible cuteness steals her breath. The minions surge together, excitement crackling as Akihito shouted, "Ice cream's almost ready." He brandishes a bowl that bursts with perfectly churned, creamy ice cream. The minions dove in, their faces exploding with pure bliss as that delicious taste hit. The crowd erupts, clamoring for a statue of Akihito, and he cringes, burning crimson with mortified embarrassment. Right in the heart of the celebration, Olivia steals him aside and pours out a heartfelt thanks. He laughed it off, flashing a grin and insisting he'd been frantically scrambling to steer them into the safe return. She stared at him in genuine awe, insisting he was jaw-droppingly cool. Her earnest compliment hits Akihito like a bolt, heat floods his cheeks, and he can only stammer a barely audible "thank you." Olivia's grin collapses. Shame and frustration hit her as she berates herself for returning empty-handed. No meat. Bucci catches her whisper, grins, and asks if she wants to eat meat. She pounces on the offer. He points to the caves and declares them their next hunting ground, shadowed tunnels bursting with mouth-watering bounty. Olivia's curiosity flares. She leans in and echoes, caves. Bucci paints a dazzling realm alive with rare creatures, glittering crystals, and mouth-watering ingredients. Agreement ripples around the room, and Olivia's gaze snaps to Akihito. Fired up, Akihito thrusts a finger forward and bellows, "Our next adventure is a cave expedition." They reach the base of a jagged cliff, facing a yawning, pitch-black cave mouth that seems to swallow the light. Akihito and Olivia squared their shoulders and stepped toward the foreboding maw, ready to face the next challenge head-on. Recognition hits Olivia like a punch. This is the cave Bucci described. Standing before the gaping black maw, she jabbed at a twisted totem and declared it the entrance marker. Bucci jabbed a finger at the totem's belly. The carved number stares back as a hollow 0. That number screams the monster's strength. A 0 means this spot is safe. Bucci scans the cave's mouth and snaps. No mighty monsters prowl near the entrance. Akihito deduces the meat stashed deeper inside, where far fiercer monsters prowl. Warrior fire surged through Olivia as she bellowed that she would be the one to claim the meat. She falters, then admits she'll need a light to cut through the darkness. Akihito extends a lantern with gentle, earnest hands, and she bursts into a crimson blush at the thoughtful offering. Their hands meet for a heartbeat, sparks flaring, as he slips the lantern into her grip. She yanks her hand back, panic burning her throat as she stammers apologies for her strange reaction. A shy smile bloomed on her lips as she whispered, "May I carry the light?" Akihito flashes a warm, reassuring grin and promises her, "Of course it is." She thanks him, snatching the lantern, as a fierce, new confidence ignites inside her. Olivia hoists the light high like a blazing banner and plunges into the cave, their expedition officially underway. Akihito watches her, a fond smile curling his lips as her name blooms in his mind. He vows to stand by her, watching her battle her phobia tooth and nail and pour every ounce of effort into getting through it. They slip into the gloom, swearing to inch forward, slow, silent, and razor-sharp with caution. They plunge deeper into a cavern so vast it swallows their footsteps, the ceiling studded with strange, pulsing lights. Bucci jabbed at another totem, its stark one screaming a warning that the area ahead was far more dangerous. Akihito scans the trail and declares it clear for now. Olivia watches, every nerve humming with anxiety. Out of nowhere, a strange, otherworldly light screamed past Akihito, slicing the air and leaving him stunned. The light rips open, revealing a colossal swarm of giant, moth-like insects. A grimace snaps across Akihito's face as he realizes he's surrounded by a writhing, terrifying horde of bugs. He thrashes his arms, panic fueling every desperate swing, but the swarm bulldozes him. He can't fend them off. Olivia screams his name into the writhing swarm of insects, desperate to know if he's all right. The bugs, hypnotized by the lantern's glow, surged and swarmed toward the light in her hands. Olivia screamed a warning the moment she realized the swarm was snuffing out their only light. She screamed "Vance" and ripped the air into a violent, spiraling gale. The explosion rips the swarm apart, catapulting every insect high into the air. Her thunderous strike sliced the airplane, leaving a heap of crushed insects at her feet. After the dust settled, Akihito's gaze snapped to a cluster of pale growths clinging to the wall, mushrooms. His trained eye declares them edible cave mushrooms, a rare, mouth-watering treasure. Tama practically squealed. She remembered Bucci saying they could swap these mushrooms for bacon. Akihito's mouth waters, picturing sizzling, sautéed bacon and mushrooms as they haul in their prize. As they press on, Olivia's gaze snaps to something else wedged in a shadowed crevice. She whooped to Akihito, eyes sparkling. There might be another delicious treasure nearby. They close in. Akihito thrusts his gaze into the shadows, curiosity burning as he strains to identify the strange plant. Olivia's breath caught at the impossible sight of a plant pushing up in the dark. Akihito braced himself, fingers itching to investigate. Without warning, the ground in front of them tore open, unleashing a monstrous roar. Akihito roars Olivia. The instant a hulking monster erupts from the earth. His eyes shot wide in shock as he drank in the creature's full, terrifying form. A towering, armored centipede dwarfs him, and all he can manage is a choked, trembling whisper about its monstrous size. The creature lunges. Akihito snaps his axe up on instinct, a frantic, last-ditch defense. The monster's razor mandibles snapped inches above his head, each chilling click a promise of death. Akihito chokes out centipede, his voice trembling, and Olivia gags, recoiling in outright disgust. A throat-trending roar rips the air as the centipede surges forward, its maw split wide like a hungry cavern. The monster unleashed a crushing strike that ripped their precious lantern from their hands and catapulted it through the air. Olivia's eyes snapped wide, horror ripping through her as their only light tumbled out of reach. The lantern careened into the far wall, exploding into a spray of shards that swallowed them in absolute darkness. Instinct exploding, Akihito shoved Olivia behind him and bellowed, "Get down." He plants his feet, hoists his axe, and dares the monstrous threat to come. He'll face it alone. The creature's mandibles snap shut on his axe. He digs in, every fiber screaming as he strains against that monstrous power. He grits his teeth, his muscles howling as the beast's sheer force hurls him backward. He knows he must dodge its poison-tipped legs, one careless touch and it will kill him. The monster snarls, its face inches from his, then explodes forward to crush him. Shadows flare behind him as Olivia screams his name, panic shredding every syllable. With a final, desperate roar, Akihito hurled a thunderous shove, pouring every ounce of his strength into the push. A thunderous counterattack shatters one of the creature's massive mandibles. He rides his momentum, coiling like a spring to unleash one final, decisive blow. Dark ichor spatters from the creature's wound as it reels back, pain shredding its body and shock locking its limbs. Akihito explodes upward and drives his axe down in a bone-shaking, overhead cleave. The blade crashed into the monster's skull with a sickening thud, driving deep into bone. He towers over the fallen beast, chest heaving as ragged breaths rip out after the brutal battle. He whips his head toward Olivia, disbelief cracking his voice. "Did I really beat it?" Olivia's cheeks blaze with awe and relief as she swallows and whispers, "It seems he has." She raves about his amazing feat, and he explodes into laughter as relief crashes over him. He somehow pulled it off. He looms over the corpse as his unique skill snaps to life with a blaring notification. A pop-up explodes on screen, declaring, "Marvel Giant Centipede, conditionally edible." The skill even boasts that, when boiled, it takes on a tender texture and the mouth-watering taste of lobster. Akihito's face snaps into a mask of raw, gut-punching shock and bone-deep horror. Olivia locks onto his strange expression and snaps, "What's wrong?" fear lacing her voice, convinced he might be hurt. He snaps to her with a forced smile and insists the centipede is delicious. Olivia locks eyes on him, horror blazing in her gaze as his words land like a gut punch and leave her mind blank. He scrambles backward, hands a blur, stammering that he was only kidding. He hisses under his breath that you'd need iron courage to choke down something that grotesque. With that revolting centipede finally behind them, Akihito and Olivia cracked up and swore to pretend it never happened. Akihito's hand skids, his fingers slipping the moment they brush the lantern. Olivia in profile locks onto the lantern as it tumbles, clattering through the air. Darkness slams in, they gasp as their lone light sputters and dies. Olivia rips out a blood-curdling scream and collapses, her cries clawing at the devouring darkness. Akihito bellowed her name as her explosive reaction hit him like a punch, leaving him utterly stunned. She crumples to her knees, her entire body shaking violently as raw, paralyzing terror floods her. He lunges for her, pulling her close and flooding her with urgent comfort and steady reassurance. Holding her tight, the crushing weight of her phobia slams into him, and he vows he won't leave her side. Trembling, Olivia forces out a choked whisper of apology, each word stung by the weight of her weakness. He clamps her to him, hissing, "Don't apologize," while the fear of ever finding a new light gnaws at him. Akihito knows he has to drag her out of the cave now. In this black, they're exposed and defenseless. His face snapped into iron, resolve blazing. He'd throw his life between her and danger. He edges into the black, and his eyes snag a faint, ghostly light far deeper in the cave. He leans in and asks if she can walk. She only shakes her head, frozen solid by fear. No other option, he steels himself, digs his heels in, and prepares to hoist her off the ground. He murmurs a quick apology for being so forward, then sweeps her into his arms, cradling her like a fragile secret. He hoists her into his arms and plunges into a magnificent grotto, its walls glittering with a wondrous light. Both of them freeze, jaws dropping as the source reveals itself, endless, towering magic stones. He cradled her, eased her into the soft, golden glow, and whispered that they should rest a while. Dizzy and flustered, Olivia's cheeks flare as she can only murmur a bashful yes. She apologizes again. He gently urges her to be careful as she steadies herself. He clasps her hand with a firm, steady grip, an unspoken anchor that steadies her in the moment. He flashes a warm smile and vows that her safety comes first. Olivia catches his eye, her features melting into a gentle, wordless gratitude that says more than words ever could. She clutched his hand, choking out a trembling "thank you" as waves of gratitude crashed over her at his unwavering kindness. Their playful banter slices through the tension, igniting a brief, contagious burst of relief. Akihito snatches a crystal, eyes wide as he drinks in the strange, otherworldly beauty of the magic stones. Olivia explains the minions barter these, pointing out that one this massive has to be worth a fortune. He beams, thrusting the stones toward her, and she snaps that he was the one who found them. He scoffs, declares he has no use for them, and insists she take them as a souvenir. Flustered, she blurts, cheeks aflame, that her family is quite wealthy and doesn't need another thing. She tosses a mischievous grin his way, and he snaps back that his true prize is the mushrooms he unearthed. A soft, genuine laugh spills from Olivia as the rigid knot in her posture finally unravels. A smile rips across Akihito's face, relief and pure joy washing through him as her spirit stirs again. He reflects on her earlier terror, the cold truth slamming into him. It must spring from deep, buried trauma. Seeing Olivia, normally a burst of sunshine, reduced to raw, shaking terror slams into him like a gut punch. A gut-wrenching certainty hits him. Her paralyzing phobia springs from a raw, painful wound. Olivia's eyes snap up to him, her face a hard line, and she utters his name like a verdict. It hits her time after time he put her first, every choice made to keep her safe. She swallows fear, chooses to trust him, maybe it's safe, and at last unleashes the story she's kept locked inside. She snaps his name again, yanking his full attention to her before she begins. She stared him down and asked him to hear the story of her past, every word steeled with resolve. Akihito locks eyes with her, jaw set, bracing himself to catch every word. They huddle in the cavern's glow as she draws a steady breath, ready to tear the silence and reveal everything. Beneath the cavern's glittering crystals, she bared a wrenching tale that sliced through the calm. They sank into the grotto's cavernous hush, two figures locked in an intimate silence beneath its towering, cathedral-like vaults. Akihito had burned to uncover her past, but now dread coiled in his gut. Olivia feels his curiosity clawing at her. He has to know why the dark cripples her. He steels himself and says he'll listen, even if every word rips her apart. The steel in her eyes cut him to the bone. He stepped forward, voice raw, and told her he truly wanted to know her and understand. His gentle consideration struck Olivia like a warm breeze. She flashed him a grateful smile. Her story explodes to life, catapulting them straight into the events of 1 year ago. A flashback slams into place, revealing her as a revered holy knight and battle-hardened platoon commander. Her cape was emblazoned with the ornate sigil of her noble house, a proud banner nobody could miss. Her adoring subordinates swarmed her, clamoring for her to join their meal. Two jealous nobles barrel into the room, shouting the lie that she already has plans with them. Her loyal soldiers fixed icy stares on the two nobles, standing as a living shield around their commander. Nobles spat venomous whispers, their resentment of her noble birth and lofty rank exploding into bitter gossip. One of them leans in, voice a sharp hiss, and drops a rumor he heard about the Half-Pieman family. He drops a bomb. Her family's business went under, and they're drowning in crushing debt. The scene snaps to her father, the Marquis, gaunt and hunched, every line of his face screaming exhaustion and stress. Chatter died on the noble's lips the instant the Marquis loomed, his presence alone snuffing every whisper. He stands alone, reading the letter as each line gouges pain and worry deeper across his face. Every line on his face screams the crushing weight of his family's troubles. He strode up to Olivia, the Marquisette's formal letter clenched in his fist. As Olivia reads the letter, shock explodes across her face and disbelief freezes every line of her expression. Her father locks onto the flicker in her eyes and presses, "What's wrong?" He slams down a crushing truth. Their trade ships have sunk yet again. He confesses that, desperate to claw back their losses, he plunged into a massive loan. He drops a bombshell, a marriage proposal from the Prince of Nissel. Olivia's voice is ice cold as she drops the bomb. Marry the prince and he'll pay off every debt they owe. Relief shatters his composure into trembling tears, and she cups his face, whispering, "Don't worry." She snaps her eyes shut, steel in her spine, and swears herself to the duty of a daughter of House Half-Pieman. A soldier barrels into the room, cutting them off as he gasps a desperate warning. He screams the cemetery is erupting with zombies, each one eerily nodding at him. Over 300 undead surge forward, and the horde keeps swelling. Olivia's memory surges back to the Nottingham orphanage and the children she used to play with there. Steely resolve carves her face as she barks orders, her platoon snapping into motion to ready for battle. She thunders forward on horseback, 72 soldiers at her back, crashing into an army of the dead. Chaos explodes as steel bites bone, and the brutal clash with the undead horde erupts. The truth slams into her. More than 300 zombies stretch out before her. A soldier urges them to wait for reinforcements, and she roars back, "There's no time." She plants her feet, swearing she'll stop the horde here and drag anyone trapped inside to safety. She thrusts the defensive line into Glenn's hands, her second-in-command tasked to lead it. Mounted on her white steed, she hoists her spear skyward, channeling holy power to unleash her ultimate holy technique. She unleashed a thunderous tidal wave of divine energy that obliterated the zombie horde. Her soldiers roar her name, awed by her power as they scour the ruins for survivors. Path cleared, she and her soldiers storm into the church. They barreled through the main doors, shouting for anyone, and their voices were swallowed by an eerie, echoing silence. Her eyes raked the dark, empty church, hunting for any survivors hiding in the shadows. Glenn, her trusted second-in-command, watches from the sidelines, worry tightening every line of his face. She snaps, "Hold steady, brace yourself for whatever we find." She grins, calm and sure, declaring she's a holy knight and banishing his doubts. A soldier finds a side door, bolted fast from the inside. Olivia's voice slices through the chaos. She calls out her platoon and vows to help anyone inside. When no one answers, she clenches her jaw and snaps that they'll have to smash the door down. She launches a thunderous kick that obliterates the wooden door, splinters exploding in every direction. Her soldiers stormed into the dark room, lanterns thrust high to slice through the black. They burst inside and found what they'd been searching for, a tight knot of huddled children. In a memory, Olivia's armored form drops to one knee, relief crashing through her as the young girl stands safe. She rings up Big Sis Olivia, heart pounding, and asks if Olivia remembers when they used to play together. Her features snap into a monstrous grin as she keeps screaming, "Big Sis." The zombified child snarls, a raw, guttural sound ripping out of her throat. Olivia launches herself protectively in front of the lunging zombie, screaming a fierce warning. Her eyes bulged, terror clawing at her as the horrific scene played out. The memory hit like a gut punch. One instant a sweet, smiling child, the next a twisted, undead form. Olivia flings her hand out, desperation clawing at her chest as the innocent girl's memory slips away like smoke. The soldier tenses, raises his weapon, and calls the zombie child just a thing as he prepares to strike. Olivia's scream rips through the room. "Stop, you will not harm that child." Her subordinate whipped around, wide-eyed and baffled by Commander Olivia's command. He bellows a warning as two zombie nuns lunge at him from behind. Fangs sink into Soldier Buffett, he howls, and Olivia stands frozen, eyes wide in shock. Blood splatters her face as she screams, pleading for it to stop. Darkness swallows the world as chaos howls and screams of terror rip through the air. She chokes out that she watched her platoon fall and couldn't pull the children to safety, a guilt so crushing it forced her to resign. Her father roars that she must bury the past and say yes to the Prince of Nissel's proposal. The handsome prince sweeps in, greets Olivia, and declares he's been waiting for her. He vows the kingdom's coffers will shoulder her family's burdens and slips that happiness straight into her hands. Olivia's gaze goes hollow as she silently asks herself, what does this so-called happiness actually mean? A fierce certainty flares in her. Accepting this is an honor she must seize. She bears her pain to a stunned Akihito, revealing how the trauma left her crippled by a paralyzing fear of the dark. Finishing her tale, she confesses her own immaturity ignited the tragedy. Akihito flashed a grateful smile, then his expression hardened as he leaned in and pressed her about the engagement to the prince. She winces, voice tight, and confesses, mortified that this is her situation. He pins her with a searing gaze and demands, "Is this truly what you want?" He roars that becoming a human sacrifice for her family is an absolute outrage. He brands the prince a villain. She leaps up to shield him, insisting he's nothing but a kind man. Tears streaking her face, she hurls the demand at Akihito, "Why are you being so cruel to me?" Her cutting retort hits him like a slap. He flinches, gut dropping as he realizes he's overstepped. He forces out an apology, admitting he'd let rage boil over at her family's debt-driven decision. She exhales, lays bare how noble marriages work, and urges him not to worry. Her eyes snap wide as she starts to speak, then her voice chokes off, and yet. He roared, "I hate seeing you like this. I swear I'll end your pain." His words struck her to the core. She spun away, cheeks burning crimson. Her fist tightens into a white-knuckled ball as she forces out a thank you and vows she can't betray her parents. Akihito's expression melted into a quiet surrender. he couldn't push her any further. He vows never to breathe a word about it again, relief surging through him that she trusted him enough to tell him. Olivia's demeanor flips in an instant as she boasts she's fine and brimming with strength. She busts into a ridiculous flex and vows she'll throw down if things cross the line, leaving Akihito blinking in stunned confusion. He exploded into a warm, relieved laugh the instant he realized she was trying to lighten the mood. She dives in, her bright laugh exploding and flooding the glowing cavern. Akihito's smile dies as a thought he can't speak claws at his mind. Every fiber of his being screamed to ask her to stay on the island with him. Olivia locks onto his silence and snaps, "What's wrong?" He slams that idea aside and barks for them to go seize more of the priceless magic stones. Her eyes ignite at the idea, money's the problem, they'll make it vanish. She whoops thrilled and they snatch up everything they can lug. Bucci the Catman pounces into view, beaming as he cradles a bag stuffed with their haul. Olivia surged with energy, itching to scoop up souvenirs and even bring down fresh meat. As they stepped out, Akihito was consumed by thoughts of Olivia's incredible string. A heavy, grinding scrape reverberates from the cave's shadowed mouth. A hulking shadow floods the tunnel, stalking them with cold, relentless hunger. A dark, monstrous shape loomed, swallowing the entire passage. They burst into the blinding light just as Olivia's voice sliced through the air, "I've found you." She hoists a massive, bulging sack stuffed with plump, untouched cave mushrooms, pride blazing in her eyes. Akihito's breath shudders, then a wide, relieved grin splits his face. The cave's monster never showed. Olivia cradles the mushrooms, inhales deeply, and gushes about their intoxicating, heady aroma. He cracks a joke and panic claws at her. She's convinced he's mocking her smell. He explodes into laughter, then grins and urges them to leave the mushrooms outside and go find a place to cook. Lurking in the shadows, a hidden observer spots the glint and realizes they, too, wield magic stones. A sudden, ear-splitting crack ripped from the cave's depths, and they both leapt back. A thunderous thud rips through the air. Something massive has just arrived. A monstrous saber bored barrels into view, its eyes blazing with pure malice. They both scream, blood running cold, as the massive beast explodes into view. The boar plants its feet, muscles knotting like steel cables as it coils to burst into a brutal charge. Olivia slams Akihito aside and roars that she'll take the monster down herself. Her eyes flare with raw, blazing power as she unleashes her body enhancement skill. She snaps her sword free in a flash, blade a silver blur as she plants her feet to meet the charge. The boar's eyes narrow to slits as it hurtles toward her at blistering speed. Steel screams against tusk, ringing out as she fends off the attack. Her sword screamed and exploded into a storm of shards, rent apart by the creature's crushing might. Akihito froze, disbelief cracking across his face as he realized Olivia had been utterly crushed. The blow crashes into her, sending her stumbling backward across the ground. She fights to stay on her feet as the boar's relentless assault slams into her, threatening to send her sprawling. He screams her name as the creature's savage strength hurls her backward. She reels, clocking the boar's lightning speed and the iron-hard bite of its tusks. Akihito's eyes snap open, horror clawing at him as he grasps their teetering on the brink of disaster. A cold punch of truth hits him. Olivia's power simply can't touch this foe. A desperate idea explodes in his mind. He'll bend his movement magic and slip free. He zeroes in, channeling a crackling surge to teleport them instantly back to camp. Magic surged into being, a brilliant heartbeat, then sputtered and died into nothing. They gawk, confusion and alarm ripping through them as the spell fizzles into nothing. A jolt of panic rips through him the moment he realizes his magic has vanished. Olivia's scream rips the air, begging him to run, as the board lunges again, convinced it's already won. Akihito shoves her back, hoists his axe overhead, and bellows that he must do something. He heaves with every muscle screaming, groaning that the boar's savage might is too much. His arms give out, he can't shove it back, so he bellows for Olivia to save herself. She howls in despair, clinging to him and refusing to let him go. They went rigid as terror slammed into them, pinning them motionless. Akihito begs her to run as his strength crumbles, and she answers with a raw, desperate scream of his name. A new voice rips through the chaos, shouting for them to slam their eyes shut and clamp their mouths. The voice they always obeyed slammed into them, and they clamped their eyes shut, confusion churning in their chest. A massive explosion rips the air open, a blinding flash searing everything as a roiling cloud of smoke surges outward. Through the haze, Bushi explodes into view, shouting for them to move, now. The two minions lunged, snatching their dazed friends and hauling them to safety. Bucci snarls, ordering them to scale the towering, jagged ledge to snatch a few precious seconds. He snaps a proud salute and blurts, "I had a bad feeling, I came to check on them." Akihito chokes out a thank you to them, rubbing at his eyes that sting from the blast. Bucci whips out his secret, a Minion special pepper bomb, right as the boar erupts into a thunderous sneeze. Perched on a dizzying cavern ledge, Bucci snaps, "We need an escape plan." Akihito reaches to teleport, but the magic sputters and dies, panic rips through him. Bucci's voice cracks as he apologizes, confessing the magic stones are wrecking his skills. A thunderous crash rips through the air as the ground convulses beneath their feet. Rage-fueled boar barrels into the rock face, hammering it until their perch shudders and begins to crumble. Bucci lays out the boar's trap in cold detail, and Akihito's breath catches as he realizes they're teetering on the brink. Relentless blasts slammed into them, sending the party reeling with each bone-rattling hit. Akihito clenches his jaw and vows they'll hunt down a weak point. Boogie grins and pitches a slick trap. A lightning bolt idea slams into Akihito, and memories of his unique skills roar back to life. He zeroes in, channeling his pro of preparation to dissect the beast's patterns and pry out its hidden weak spot. He roared, "I've found it." He'd pinpointed the monster's vital point. Olivia watches, hope igniting across her face. She locks eyes with Akihito and declares, "If an opening's all we need, leave it to me, I'll carve one out." Akihito's eyes lock on the brave, holy knight as he steels himself and readies for battle. Olivia hurled herself down and met the charging boar head-on. The beast rockets in a ferocious charge. She plants her feet and blasts back with a devastating surge of power. The impact explodes, hurling sparks and jagged rock in every direction. The Saber boar staggers, blasted backward by the brutal, unexpected force she unleashed. Their collision rips a thunderous shockwave through the cavern, rattling every rock as echoes slam into the walls. A cataclysmic blast rips the sky open, hurling their clash into a thunderous climax. Bucci whooped as Akihito eased Olivia down on a rope, rattling off the secrets of the sparking magic stones. The minions shout Olivia's name and hurl themselves forward as fearless bait to draw the boar away. Bucci bets the whole plan on Olivia's strength, and she steps up instantly, fierce and unflinching. The massive boar snaps its head, violently shaking off the stunning blow. It erupts with a furious snort, steam spewing from its flaring nostrils as it tenses and coils to charge again. Bucci bellows a warning as the enraged beast hurtles toward their trap, each thunderous footfall rattling the ground. Tama's sobs explode now as Olivia snaps the tripwire taut and unleashes her Vance skill. The boar explodes forward, its hooves snag the rope with a gunshot snap. Tama roars triumphantly as the trap snaps shut, sending the beast staggering, stunned for a heartbeat. The minions roared at Akihito, thrusting the rest onto his shoulders. The monster lies exposed. Akihito rockets forward, skinning knife flashing in his grip. He bellows pro of preparation, invoking his ultimate support skill. He hurtles toward the recovering beast, his focus razor-sharp. The dazed Saber boar snapped his head up, confusion ripping through him at the sudden twist. Akihito dives under the towering beast, sliding straight beneath its thunderous belly. His expert touch declares the boar fit to eat. First, he must pry out its stubborn, armored tusk. At the hint of meat, Olivia whooped with glee, and the minions swarmed forward, practically fighting over who could help first. The Saber boar lies crumpled on the ground, beaten and reeling as the world spins around it. Back at the campsite, Akihito stokes the warm, crackling fire, sparks snapping into the night. The entire party tore into skewers of boar, whooping that every bite was outrageously delicious. Olivia sighed in bliss, calling the meal heavenly, and Akihito burst into a wide grin, agreeing with every fiber of his being. Bucci beams, pure, simple joy flooding him as he digs into a good meal with friends. Akihito's heart swells as he realizes sharing a meal with everyone is pure joy, and he grins, glad for their friendship. He bellows his thanks for their help, and the minions roar their gratitude back. Olivia locks eyes with Akihito, her face softening as she lets his name fall from her lips like a secret. Bucci brags he only did what was right, chest puffed with pride, and Tama snarls that he's just a show-off. Bucci declares Akihito a warrior who charges into danger to protect his friends. The word companions hits Akihito like a spark. He flashes them a warm, grateful smile. He laughed and snapped, enough with the embarrassing talk, just eat more meat. He snaps to the magic stones, many lie shattered from the fight. Olivia thrusts a fistful of intact crystals into the air, grinning like a champion, there's more than enough. She erupts with raw gratitude, pouring her heart out to him and their irreplaceable companions. Akihito beams, practically bouncing, as he promises they'll head back into the cave to gather more sometime. Buchi lunges forward with a grin, volunteering to help and ribbing that Akihito would be utterly helpless without him. Tama barges in, dead set on joining so Buchi won't hog all the fun. Akihito explodes into laughter, relieved Tom's there to hold Buchi in check. Olivia slaps a palm to her lips, stifling a giggle as the minion's playful bickering crackles nearby. Akihito darts over to Olivia. She flashes a quick smile and says she's just getting some water. They're letting their guard down when a sharp rustle in the bushes yanks them to full alert. From behind a tree, a shadowy newcomer locks his gaze on them and snarls, "I've found you." A Lupin samurai explodes into the clearing, fangs bared, locking his gaze on Olivia and marking her as his target. He zeroes in on her distinctive twintles, spiraling like twin whirlwinds. Hand on his sword's hilt, he bellowed that she was his master's sworn enemy. Back at camp, the celebration glows on, peaceful laughter spilling into the night. Olivia grabs the chilled drink, tilts it, and a cool, refreshing stream rushes into the waiting bowl. She cradles the bowl and sips, eyes closed as contentment floods her. She exhales a soft, satisfied sigh, contentment blooming quietly inside her. She bellowed Akihito's name as he seared skewers over the campfire. Tama's face lit up with pure bliss as she clamored for seconds, her voice bursting with excitement. Akihito cracks a grin and ribs Tama about stuffing himself, and the minion puffs up, defiantly insisting he's fine. Tama savors a bite, grinning. This meat tastes way better because they all work together. Akihito nods and bolts off to snag another skewer for Buchi. The samurai stalks the shadows, stone-cold sure a demon is deceiving the minions. Akihito extends another skewer like a hopeful truce. Olivia smiles, shakes her head, and gently refuses. The samurai tore out of the trees, sword flashing, rage boiling as he vowed to punish the demon standing before him. Akihito and the minions reeled in stunned silence as a sudden intrusion crashed into their midst. The samurai catapults into the air, blades singing, daring them to fight him right now. Akihito bellowed Olivia and slammed the alarm as the warrior plummeted down. He hurls himself in front of Olivia, slamming a frying pan against the samurai's katana. Steel slammed into iron, erupting in a thunderous clang. Olivia's voice cracks with gratitude as she thanks Akihito for protecting her and urgently asks if he's all right. She whirls on the samurai, eyes blazing with rage. How dare he attack Akihito? She roars, detonating her Vance skill into a thunderous shockwave that hurls the samurai flying. A savage strike hurls the wolf warrior through the air. He twists mid-flight and lands on his feet with balletic grace. He freezes, eyes glued to Olivia, stunned as her raw, unstoppable power slams into him. Rage dissolves in an instant. He's suddenly smitten, hearts bursting to life in his eyes. Minions swarm to stop him, but he bellows that she's a fearsome demon in disguise. They rip the truth wide open, but the samurai snarls and insists every human is a demon. Akihito clings to the last spark of hope. The samurai knows Tama, so maybe he can talk him down. The samurai scoffed at Akihito's frying pan and swatted his words away like annoying flies. He snarls, fangs bared, vowing that any demon who preys on humans is his master's enemy. As he lunges, Akihito yanks a meat skewer into his mouth and jams it shut, silencing him. The samurai freezes, words dying on his tongue as explosive flavor and melt-in-your-mouth texture crash over him. Olivia moves in, calm as a still sea, and offers a simple truce, share a meal and talk things out peacefully. Rapture engulfs the samurai as the meat's juices explode on his tongue. He raves, awestruck by the razor-sharp wisdom pouring from her fierce strength and breathtaking beauty. He drops into a bone-deep bow, apology tearing from him as he declares, "Juan Yudo no haru Kimmy." Akihito reveals Kimmy had heard whispers of a flesh-eating demon stalking the forest. Buchi and Thomas exhaled sharply, trading a grim look as they ripped into Kimmy for her explosive temper and knack for stirring up trouble. Kimmy huffs, eyes blazing, swearing he only wanted a quiet life living among the minions. Guilt slams into Kimmy and he confesses, horrified to realize he nearly killed an innocent man. He crashes to his knees and pledges to commit seppuku, ready to die until Olivia's rage is quelled. Akihito steps forward, wordless, and thrusts a steaming skewer of freshly grilled meat out as a peace offering. Olivia beams lanes in, grin blazing, and presses Kimmy. "Is that food you're eating delicious?" Kimmy, giddy with delight, erupts. Olivia's skewers are the best. Olivia flashes a bright smile and crowns Akihito with all the credit for the cooking. They volley humble compliments, each admitting just how much the other pulled them through. Kimmy hung on every word, quietly burning with the wish that he, too, could learn to cook for Olivia. Olivia heaps praise on Kimmy's blade skills, and he only grows tighter, agitation crackling under his skin. Jealousy detonates inside him. He rips into Akihito, savaging him for his weak swordsmanship. Rivalry claws at Kimmy. He throws down the gauntlet at wary Akihito. Another duel ignites. Akihito steps back and refuses the pointless fight, snapping at Kimmy and calling out her over-the-top aggression. Tama hurled herself between the two men, pleading desperately for calm as Olivia's face drained of color. The tiny cat spots her distress before anyone else, rockets over and cries, "What's wrong?" Olivia forces out a shaky, "I'm fine," as her knees buckle and she begins to collapse. Akihito lunges and catches her as she goes limp, and Kimmy's terrified cry rips through the air. He clutches her limp form to his chest, roaring her name while the minions stand frozen, mouths agape. Inside the tent, Tama crouched over Olivia's motionless form, a grim sentinel refusing to look away. They snatched a pot and filled it with water, racing to cool her burning fever. Akihito cradled the pot of cool water and edged toward the tent with pinpoint-steady steps so not a single drop would spill. He rushes back, finds Tama waiting, and her voice hits him like a blow. Olivia has a high fever. Kimmy lashes out, frantic and demanding answers, while Tama snaps, insisting he stay calm and silent. The camera slams into a close-up of Olivia, sweat beads across her face as a savage fever rages through her. Akihito hovered by her side, his face frozen into a mask of raw, aching worry. Tama suspects her sickness stems from exhaustion and urges them to cool her down. Akihito rushes in with water, and Tama presses a cool, damp cloth to her forehead. It hits him like a gut punch. His own immunity skill is useless for helping her in this new world. A bolt of inspiration jolts him, and he lays a gentle palm on her head. He hurls a desperate, basic recovery spell, praying it'll be enough to help. Magic floods her, and a single tear carves a fever-hot trail down her cheek. Her eyes flutter open. She breathes his name like a fragile prayer, voice barely there as he leans over her. He chokes out an apology for not noticing sooner. She waves it off with a bright smile, insisting she's already feeling better. She forces a calm smile, whispers "don't worry," and her eyelids slide shut. Her words choke off as a violent coughing fit erupts, jolting everyone into alarm. Dread explodes in his chest. His magic is far too feeble to cure her. Kimmy implores for medicine. Tama's jaw goes rigid. They doubt their own remedies will work. A bolt of memory explodes in Thomas. A legend says a cure-all ingredient waits at the lake's bottom. Akihito grabs the fragile new hope like a lifeline and snarls, "Where's the lake?" Uchi warns them. This place drops into deadly depths, so dangerous even the minions refuse to enter. Akihito won't be stopped. He swears he'll track down the vital ingredient himself. Kimmy locks onto Akihito, his face a grim mask, cold and impossible to read. The samurai snaps, demanding he alone face the danger. Akihito grins, swearing he'll be fine. His unique skills will keep him safe. He swore his whole life boiled down to one thing, an all-consuming drive to save Olivia. Guilt claws at him, driving him to vow he'll never again be tormented by failing to keep her safe. He declares he'll go, danger be damned. The minion's eyes flashed with tears as his iron vow to rescue their friend ignited fierce hope in them. Kimmy grudgingly gives in, his face still stone cold and torn with conflict. At the foreboding lake, Kimmy hijacks a desperate rescue and flips it into a savage contest. At the water's edge, two rivals lock eyes as electric tension crackles between them. Akihito scoffs at the need for a contest, and Kimmy smirks, daring him to prove his confidence. Akihito, voice steady as steel, vows his sole mission is to save Olivia. Kimmy snaps that he's serious too, and crowns Olivia his gracious benefactor. He snarls that Akihito is a weakling who can't be trusted to protect her. Facing the final challenge, Kimmy catapults herself into the water, kicking off the race. He roars he'll win hands down as he powers away from the shore. Akihito braced himself, muscles coiling, and forced a grim reminder into his mind. This is not a game. He plunges a foot into the mysterious lake, icy, pitch-black water swallowing his first step. Bellowing Olivia's name, he catapults himself headfirst into the black, devouring depths. Kimmy plunges deeper, hunting the one-of-a-kind, jewel-hued medicinal plant. Akihito barrels through the water, determination carved into every line of his face. A claw of blackness lunged up from the depths, clamping around Kimmy and yanking her into the void. A massive hand clamps onto his leg, yanking him to a dead stop in the murky water. A brutal yank ripped him under. He vanished completely beneath the surface. Kimmy and his unseen attacker burst up from the water, coughing and clawing desperately for air. Akihito blurts he can't swim, and Kimmy snaps that someone yanked him up from beneath the water. Akihito demanded what had grabbed him, and Kimmy snapped that it struck like a savage, unstoppable current. A strange glint slices across the water's surface. Akihito's gaze snaps to it. Kimmy's face snapped into a grim mask as he sensed an invisible danger swelling in the air. Kimmy's voice snaps at Akihito. Something deadly is slithering just beneath the surface. Bubbles erupt across the surface as a creature prowls the lake's shadowed bottom. Akihito leans over the yawning darkness, breath hitching as his gaze pins a shape. Something is down there. They peer into the darkness, breaths held, imagining what creature waits below. Kimmy snaps at Akihito to give up, steels himself, and vows he'll dive back in alone. Akihito protests, and a whip-like tendril of water rockets out and coils tight around his ankle. A slick, liquid tendril cinched impossibly tight around his leg, clamping him like a vice. Akihito vanishes beneath the surface in a thunderous splash. Kimmy reels, eyes wide with shock. Kimmy screamed his rival's name, panic ripping across his face. Underwater, a savage jolt rips through Akihito. He realizes he's been seized by something. An unseen, brutal current rips him through the water, dragging him helplessly as he thrashes for breath. Two titanic, nightmarish fish burst from the depths, tearing the sea into a ravenous whirlpool. He freezes, horror lancing through him, as he realizes he's staring down not one, but two monsters. The furious whirlpool rips the sea apart, dragging everything helplessly into its relentless center. One of the monsters threw its massive jaw wide open, trying to suck him into its gaping maw. The creature's jaws clamped down like a monstrous pincer, teeth snapping shut inches from his skin. He snaps aside at the last heartbeat as the attack whistles past, relief wrenching his face into a tight, exhausted smile. His eyes snap to a ghostly light pulsing beneath the inky black water. He locks onto it, the glowing medicinal plant, nestled undisturbed on the lake bed. Realization slams into him. This is the very ingredient they came here to find. A writhing tendril lashes out, snatching him from his goal and flinging him backward in a savage yank. Snared by the monster's whiskers, he realizes he must slice himself free. His air supply is bleeding away by the second, and panic claws at his throat. Water clings like lead, turning every movement into a slow, agonizing battle. Strength deserts him. He plunges headlong into the inevitable. Steel flashed as Kimmy's blade arced, cleaving the whisker clean and snatching him back from death. Kimmy rockets through the water, cutting through waves to snatch his drowning rival from the sea's grasp. The samurai snatches him and hauls him upward in a lightning-fast tug toward the surface. Their hands slam onto the jagged shore as they claw themselves free from the water. Battered and spent, they both crumpled to the ground, lungs heaving as they ripped ragged breaths from the air. Akihito offers a quiet thanks, but Kimmy grunts and waves it off, masking the worry burning behind his eyes. Kimmy hacks, spewing like water as Akihito watches, concern carved into his face. The samurai wolf turns away, cheeks aflame, and proclaims, "My debt is paid." Akihito locks eyes with his rival, honor swelling in his chest, and bellows his name. Choking on emotion, Akihito pours out frantic thanks. Kimmy, rough and abrupt, shoves him away. Kimmy vows he won't be baited by that trap again. He's ready to charge on alone. Akihito gapes, voice cracking as he rips into Kimmy for daring to take on two monsters by himself. Kimmy slammed her fist to her chest and swore she'd succeed for Olivia. Akihito shot back that a strategy was essential. Akihito feels the water stacking the odds against him and pleads for a single moment to think. Kimmy screams there's no time as Akihito frantically claws through his memory for a skill that might save them. He uncovers the underwater walking skill and roars that it's their only hope. Resolve blazing, he masters the skill and bellows, "Join me, fight at my side." The samurai wolf staggers back, eyes wide, as Akihito suddenly proposes they team up. Akihito snatches up a hard-won skill and boldly hands its power to his rival. He declares they can breathe underwater for 4 minutes. Kimmy scoffs, not buying it. Akihito pleads with burning fervor, urging them to unite their strength. Do it for Olivia. Kimmy locks onto the desperate plea, pride armored and rigid, yet a single bead of sweat betrays him. Swearing he won't drown again, Kimmy clamps the sword between his teeth and plunges headfirst into the water. Shoulder to shoulder, the two rivals hurl themselves back into the inky, monster-infested depths. Submerged, Akihito gapes as he breathes effortlessly, the water itself letting him draw air. Awe surges through him as Kimmy glides with effortless grace, and he bellows to his new partner. Two monstrous fish explode into view, towering over them as Akihito bellows, "They're here." The grotesque anglerfish monster flung its gaping maw wide in a soundless roar and hurtled straight at them. Kimmy lunges between them and the beast, eyes blazing, and roars, "I'll be your opponent." The second monster, a giant catfish, whips its long whiskers straight at Akihito. Akihito's shout rips out as the monster's brutal strike hurls Kimmy through the air. The giant catfish monster zeroed in on Akihito and lunged, hurtling toward him like a tidal battering ram. He slashes the whiskers with his knife. They snap back to life in an instant. His eyes snap to the glowing medicinal plant on the lake bed, almost within arm's reach, yet cruelly out of grasp. Kimmy barks at Akihito to snatch the plant while he unleashes a much-needed distraction. Akihito's pulse rockets as the countdown chews through the last precious minutes. Only a few remain. Rage boiled in him as the monsters kept regrowing their whiskers, each new sprout stoking his fury. A lightning bolt idea rips through his mind as he recalls his one-of-a-kind preparation skill. The monster's whisker lashes out and ensnares Kimmy, and Akihito erupts, shouting his name in raw alarm. Kimmy writhes, his wrist pinned, as Akihito vows he's racing over to help. A lightning bolt revelation slams into Akihito, "Tangle the whiskers, don't cut them." He roars at Kimmy to hang on one more heartbeat as he barrels straight toward the beast. Resolve flares in his eyes as Akihito lunges and yanks the monster's powerful, slimy whisker. Kimmy is yanked, limbs flailing, toward the creature's gaping, tooth-filled maw. The monster spins a howling vortex that reaches out like a hand, trying to yank the struggling samurai warrior into its gaping maw. Whipped into churning water, Kimmy battles the relentless current, clawing and gasping as he prays he can break free before time runs out. Akihito rips through the raging current, his mind laser-focused on reaching Kimmy before time runs out. The creature unhinges its jaws, mouth gaping wide, poised to sink the final, fatal bite. Akihito unleashes his preparation skill, snatches the monster's whiskers, and knots them into a flawless bow. The monster's claws slacken, and Kimmy explodes free from its grasp. Freed from the whisker's grip, Kimmy hurtles, helpless, through the pitch-black water. With his job done, Akihito rips through the water, every muscle screaming as he fights upward toward the surface. They collapse onto the shore, chests heaving as they gulp air. Somehow they'd clawed their way out of the ordeal and were still alive. Collapsed on the jagged stones, they stared up, breathless and stunned they'd actually made it out alive. He clamps the cure in his fist and bolts toward Olivia, every second screaming that she needs it now. Back at the camp, the tent brooded like a silent ghost, swallowed by the towering, menacing trees. Inside, skilled hands meticulously crush the precious medicinal herbs into a silken, fine paste. Olivia sinks down, a soft moan slipping free as her consciousness claws its way back. The beast explodes into a triumphant roar, relief crashing through him as she stirs. She's awake. The medicine worked. Kimmy's voice trembles with raw worry as he blurts, "Olivia, are you okay?" Olivia, still weak, lifts her eyes and pours out a raw, heartfelt thank you for their help. Her gaze tore across the room, locked onto Akihito, and she shouted his name. Akihito sprinted to her side, relief exploding across his face like sunlight through a storm. His face explodes into a grin, triumph surging through him. The medicine worked, and she's ecstatic too. She beams a warm, reassuring smile at him and declares she's feeling fine now. He snaps for her to stay still and rest, and she beams, happily agreeing to his request. Kimmy's eyes lock onto the tender moment between them, her face folding into a thoughtful, serious mask. He seizes her smile of pure relief, and with a jolt, knows she trusts Akihito with everything. Akihito exploded with praise, shouting that Kimmy was flat-out awesome for standing toe-to-toe with the monster, sword blazing. Olivia admits she never could have managed this alone, and pours out a raw, heartfelt thank you. Kimmy, cheeks aflame, scrambles to shove the credit back, insisting Akihito was the one who crushed the monster. Akihito cracks a smile, and a silent understanding sparks between the two rivals. Kimmy let out a gruff grumble, cheeks flaming as their praise and warm camaraderie knocked him off balance. Kimmy swears he'll never forget that face, while Akihito laughs and blurts out an apology. Butcha and Tama lob playful barbs at Kimmy's chronic flakiness, and Akihito reels, eyes wide in stunned disbelief. With a tight jaw, Kimmy finally concedes Akihito came through, but he clamps his mouth shut and refuses to say it aloud. Akihito's breath caught at the samurai's grudging praise, a shy blush blooming on his cheeks. They pounced on the pair in a laughing stampede, shoving the rivals together and screaming for them to finally make peace. The scene snaps to their hushed campsite, a lone, humble tent tucked deep among the trees. Akihito sizes up the bowl of fruit, daring himself to hope Olivia might be able to eat it. The minions erupt in grateful cheers, thanking him and declaring the vitamins will be great for her. Akihito knows she must claw her way back to health, but a full stomach alone won't carve out her future. The memory of that storm crashes over him, and he finally sees their tent life for what it is, perilously insecure and utterly unstable. He vows to move heaven and earth, so she steps off the island healthy. The minions catch his sudden, stone-cold seriousness, swarm him and bark, "What's on your mind?" He turns away from them for a heartbeat, resolve hardening as his new plan blazes into place. He spins on a dime, bowl held aloft, and bellows his audacious plan to overhaul the tent. Cut to another scene. A bespectacled cat girl flashes a confident thumbs up. Two wide-eyed boys gush and cheer, practically worshipping their impossibly cool big bro, Hirotaka. Hirotaka smirks, promising he'll launch them to the dizzying heights of true adventure. Akihito's convinced that if he can overhaul their living conditions, it'll help. He watches Olivia resting, a burning certainty roaring in him that she truly needs a better home. He plants his feet, determination blazing, ready to forge a home that will stand against every threat. His friends gaped, disbelief plastered on their faces, as beads of sweat popped and fell when he hurled that sudden, earth-shaking declaration. He jabbed a finger at the towering pile of logs and announced he'd use everything Olivia had gathered. The minions gawk, voices crackling with awe. Can he actually build a disaster-proof house? He stares at the towering pile of wood, silent as he sizes up the colossal task looming before him. Doubt claws at him. Does he really have the skill? As the minions sneer at his audacious plan. Admitting he can't do it alone, he rips open his status screen and pings a pro for backup. The camera soars over the island's lush, emerald canopy, the dense forest roaring with color. A sugar-sweet female minion pops into view, flashing a grin as she pledges her aid to the savior. Akihito's heart lurches at her cuteness, while Kimmy watches, utterly unimpressed. Tama cuts him off, corrects him on the spot, and snaps, "This is the real Marin." Marin's expression hardens into shadow as a menacing aura erupts from her. She snaps into a fierce foreman, barking orders that drive everyone to build the best house. Tama drops a bomb about why she changed, and Akihito freezes, mouth hanging open, utterly bewildered. Akihito beams and eagerly offers to help Kimmy, grinning, "Let's haul this lumber together." The heavy log nearly topples Kimmy. She stumbles, and Akihito's voice explodes with worry. The samurai snarls he's fine alone, and Akihito cuts in with a cold warning that one misstep could send him falling. Kimmy's patience shatters. She lashes into Akihito for being clumsy and snaps, "Be more careful." He slammed Akihito aside and spat that if he's only going to be useless, he should stay back. They stride through a taut, electric silence. Akihito, convinced Kimmy's hush hides a blazing fury aimed at him. Kimmy seethes, fists clenching, raw frustration burning, because he can't do more for Lady Olivia. It hits Akihito like a lightning bolt. Today he can finally spin his special point roulette. He slammed the roulette into motion. The wheel screamed and spat out a massive 32-point jackpot, rocketing his total to 39. When he leveled up, it ripped open a cache of fierce new subskills that supercharged his tent-building ability. He unearths a dazzling gold tier in his food gacha, a celebration-ready jackpot that screams party. Kimmy pins him with a deadpan stare. His excited muttering makes her skin crawl. Akihito practically explodes with giddy energy as he lays out a mouth-watering plan to nab the perfect feast to celebrate Olivia's recovery. He clings to one desperate wish, that she heals and is happy again. Kimmy listens to him, his face a stone mask, serious and unreadable. The samurai pins Akihito with a blade-cold stare and snaps, "Do you intend to live on the island with Olivia?" Akihito's voice cracked as he choked out that Olivia had to return home. They couldn't live together. Kimmy snapped, "Why won't you come with me?" And Akihito met her glare, saying flatly that her situation was complicated. Kimmy's eyes snag on him, worry snapping in her voice. "Akihito, are you really okay with this?" Akihito admits loneliness claws at him, but nothing matters more than Olivia's happiness. Right now, he swears he'll race time itself, packing every moment with as many happy memories for her as he can make. His raw, heartfelt confession slams into Kimmy. She freezes, cheeks aflame, words dying on her lips. The samurai hissed, "I don't understand humans," and Akihito froze, utterly baffled. Buki's voice tore through the woods, screaming Akihito's name like a warning. Buchi sprints up, breathless and urgent, shouting that Marin's in danger and needs his help right now. Cut to their bare tent, pinned to the rim of the forest. Panic claws at Marin, the minion architect, as they realize the house is running short on lumber. Akihito gapes at the building's towering scale as realization crashes over him. This project is going to take far longer because the structure is massive. The Mayans volunteer to flood the site with extra hands, swelling their ranks to rocket the assembly into overdrive. A Minion strains to drive a massive post into the ground, hammer crashing as companions clutch its base to keep it upright. Watching them work, a lightning bolt of inspiration struck Akihito. It hits him. He's got a pile driver subskill, and he slams it into action. He hefted a heavy wooden mallet like a badge of intent and asked the minion to hand him the reins. He clamps the mallet, coiling like a spring to unleash the raw force of his new skill. He channels his skill into his enhanced body and slams the mallet down with earth-shattering force. One thunderous strike slammed the post into the earth, leaving the minions frozen in stunned silence. Akihito exploded with triumph, declaring he could finish the work in an instant and beaming at finally being useful. Minion whooped, thrilled that the work would now race forward. Kimmy watches, jaw tight, swallowing pride as he admits this was exactly the kind of feat his rival would pull. Akihito bellowed to Kimmy, pleading for a favor only a samurai could pull off. Kimmy caves with a sharp huff, grudgingly agreeing as the nearby Meion flashes a smug, knowing smile. Akihito plants his feet before a towering tree, axe clenched in his hands, poised to end the lumber shortage with the first swing. He hefts the axe and drives it in a practiced, thunderous arc. His camper skills turned his tree felling into razor-sharp precision. The colossal tree groans like a wounded giant, then gives way and topples with a deafening crack. Akihito begged Kimmy for help, and Kimmy the samurai snapped to it, steel in his eyes as he accepted the challenge with fierce determination. Kimmy snatches his katana and explodes into a flashing blur, carving impossibly fast slashes through the air. A second massive tree crashes down, cleaved by the samurai's masterful blade. The minions erupt in cheers, dazzled by their flawless teamwork, while Kimmy coolly shrugs off the praise. A minion, clutching a hammer, felt their fighting spirit ignite into a roaring blaze. Marin bellows, rallies the troops, and drives them to raise the entire house in one thunderous push. The entire minion village explodes into a gleeful building blitz, every minion hammering, hauling, and cheering as they race to raise new structures. On break, Akihito digs into a meal with his beaming, hard-working new friends, laughter turning the pause into a warm celebration. Cut to a tranquil, star-studded night blanketing the shadowed forest. Inside the tent, a figure stirs, clawing its way out of a long, bone-deep sleep. They flung their arms wide, ripping the last tendrils of sleep away as they snapped awake after days of recovery. Olivia bolts upright, pulse racing, desperate to know how long she's been asleep. She clutches at hazy, dreamlike flashes of Akihito and Tama caring for her. She yanks the tent flap open, heartbeat thundering as her eyes hunt for the source of the commotion. She freezes. Before her stands a finished log cabin as minions erupt into cheers. Olivia gapes, disbelief crashing over her as she fights to process the impossible sight before her. Tama sprinted to her side, beaming, and cried, "You're awake, are you all right?" Minions swarm her, shouting they'd built a safe house where she can rest. They burst into joyful cheers, declaring to her that Akihito dreamed up the whole house. Tears streamed down Olivia's face when she realized this incredible gift was built just for her. Her tears freeze mid-fall as her eyes lock onto something eerily out of place. She can't believe her eyes. Two bizarre, crudely carved wooden statues loom before her, grotesque likenesses of her and Akihito, posed as saviors. The minions howled that the statues were absolutely necessary and utterly vital. Akihito bolted over, relief crashing through him, and a grin exploding across his face when Olivia finally opened her eyes. He pleads, voice low and urgent, begging her not to push herself. She's still recovering. Tears brimmed in Olivia's eyes as she choked out, "How can I ever thank you for this house?" A warm smile lights his face as he soothes her. "Don't worry, just rest." He blurts, promising the house has 2 separate rooms, so they'll have their privacy. Akihito points at the strange statues and urges everyone to move them, but the minions erupt, shouting him down. The minion proclaims, voice fierce and proud, that it's a sacred honor to praise their savior aloud for all to hear. Akihito sweats bullets, his face blazing red as that wildly over-the-top show of affection mortifies him. Olivia clamps a hand over her mouth and whispers, "I'm truly happy and so very grateful." Her face beamed with pure joy as she exclaimed that meeting everyone had made her truly happy. Her raw, emotional words crashed into Akihito and the minions, leaving them stunned and speechless. The minions explode into cheers and vow to throw a wild party to celebrate the new house. Akihito's grin erupts as the festival's jubilant energy sweeps him away. He bellows he'll cook for everyone, hit the beach for a barbecue, and top it off with ice cream. Gratitude roaring in her chest, Olivia insists on diving into the kitchen to help him cook. Akihito's eyes blaze as he rips open his special food gacha. Now's the perfect moment to pull. He locks in the gold tier, eyes blazing, craving something truly special to ignite the party. The EBOX pops into existence, revealing a pristine bottle of wine nestled among a mouthwatering array of snacks. He explodes, shouting he's hit the jackpot, and Olivia watches, wide-eyed and utterly amazed. Toby the sea lion barrels ashore with a glittering bounty of fish, and Olivia beams, hailing the place as the perfect spot. Her hair tied in playful pigtails, Olivia beams as she triumphantly hoists skewers of perfectly grilled fish. The whole found family throws a raucous barbecue in the forest clearing, grills roaring, skewers sizzling, and laughter spilling into the trees. Olivia beams like sunlight, exclaiming that sharing a meal with everyone is a total blast and absolutely delicious. Akihito couldn't tear his eyes away, a quiet contentment blooming in his chest at how happy she was. A sharp truth slams into him, her smile is everything to him. A bittersweet stab pierces his heart, he aches, desperate for them to stay together forever. He knows it's impossible, but he clings to the dream like a lifeline. Far on the horizon, a massive ship loomed, sails billowing as it bore straight toward their island. The majestic galleon cleaves the waves, its prow lunging straight for the shore. Standing on the ship's deck, the Prince of Nissel barked, sending his men to scour the islands. He locks his gaze on the endless sea, vowing he'll find Olivia, convinced she's still alive. A confident, possessive grin spreads across his face as he growls, "I'm coming for my bride." A majestic galleon tore through choppy waters, closing fast on a distant island crowned by towering mountains. Perched in the crow's nest, the lookout slams his eye to the spyglass and rips the shoreline into sharp focus. His gaze slammed onto a pack of grotesque, multi-eyed devil rats clustered among the rocks. High above the deck, the lookout screamed a warning as monsters swarmed below. The Prince of Nissel is told, voice tight and grim, they can't confirm a single human trace on the island. He barked a razor-sharp order to abort the landing and pull away from the treacherous shore. An officer's voice cuts in to the prince, "We won't reach the next island for days." Rage boiled in the prince over the delay, but he clung to one sure thing, Olivia waits for him safe. His hand shot into a white-knuckled fist as he pictured his beloved reduced to a frail, suffering girl, utterly alone. He clutches his chest, racked in theatrical anguish, utterly convinced she's waiting for him to swoop in and save her. "Wait for me, Princess Olivia," he roared, his voice booming over the wake as his ship sailed away. The royal galleon forges onward, its prow cleaving a lonely path through the boundless, empty ocean. On the island, joyful Olivia beamed and called out, "Who wants more ice cream?" A crowd of delighted minions erupted into cheers, surging into a hungry line for another serving. Akihito snaps, "I've had enough," and Olivia jumps in, offering to take over the serving duties. He flashes a warm smile and cheekily insists, swooping in to scoop her bowl first. Akihito practically beams as he serves the minion, and Olivia looks on with a fond, tender smile. She cradled the bowl, eyes locked on Akihito, silence buzzing with unspoken questions. Laughter exploded across the yard as they celebrated outside the brand-new log cabin they'd just finished building. All around them, minions erupted into pure bliss, gobbling frozen treats with wide, gleeful grins. Bucci closes the distance to a pensive Olivia and presses, "What's on your mind?" Akihito beams, crowing that it's all thanks to him, everyone can revel in this incredible moment together. Olivia blurts that she's been leaning on Akihito nonstop and desperately wants to do something for him. Bucci shot back, grin wide, if that's the case, she should get him a present. The word present crashes into Olivia like a lightning bolt, her eyes snap wide. Later, reeling and completely plastered, Kimmy whoops and thrusts a bottle of wine at Olivia, grinning with reckless, bubbly glee. Already tipsy, Olivia grinned and proclaimed they'd throw etiquette to the wind for the night. Akihito watches from afar, a grin blooming as Olivia tosses off her cares and revels in carefree abandon. The next morning, Akihito throws his arms wide in a long stretch, eyes locked on the sky's jaw-dropping beauty. He dives into his memories, replaying the wild ride from meeting Olivia to the ferocious showdown with giant centipedes. A slow grin blooms as it hits him, just how steadily he and Olivia have grown close. He beamed, charged with pride, knowing he'd turned Olivia's night into an absolute blast. A thunderous boom shatters his thoughts, and he clings to a desperate hope that this peace will hold. He whirls around, a cold bead of sweat carving down his cheek as his mind scrambles. What just happened? He gapes at a yawning crater that swallowed the entire forest. Dread coiled in his gut as he stared at the wreckage, desperate to know what monstrous force had unleashed this devastation. Olivia reels, drunk and unsteady, lurching out of the cabin straight toward him. She flashes a goofy, carefree grin and throws a playful challenge at Akihito. "Drink with me." Akihito blurts, "Is Olivia drunk?" But Kimmy, the samurai, clamps his jaw. Shame stifles any answer. A flashback cuts in as sulking, tipsy Olivia slurs, "Why won't you drink with me, Akihito?" She cries out that she's sad, then detonates a catastrophic explosion of magical energy. Several days later, the island shook off the silence and life snapped back into its old rhythm. Two minions exchange a boisterous greeting and instantly gush about how cavernous and inviting Akihito's room is. They press at the doorway and peer into the new log cabin, eyes blazing with wonder and mouths hanging open in stunned amazement. Kimmy unloads the night's chaos on a haggard Akihito, narrating every twist of what happened while he lay passed out drunk. He slams his fist and snarls at Akihito, "Never ever let Lady Olivia drink alcohol again." In their new home, a pot of soup gurgled merrily on the stove. Kimmy sits at the table, impatience coiled like a spring, and snaps at Akihito, "Is dinner ready yet?" Olivia poised to dig in. Kimmy growls he'll never admit Akihito cooked it. He pushes them to find somewhere to settle and vows he'll eat just for today. Olivia's eyes ignite with hope as she bites her lip and forces out a shaky question. Could they go to the cave? Akihito yells yes on the spot, heart racing at the promise of a cave adventure. Olivia whooped with giddy delight, while Kimmy growled that she should at least pitch in with the meal. Determination blazed in Olivia's eyes. She vowed to hunt down the perfect gift for Akihito. The trio skids to a stop at the gaping maw of a pitch-black cave, an eerie cat-shaped statue looming at their side. Kimmy scoffs that the statue isn't bronze, and Olivia's brow knots as she wonders why Akihito would like it. Inside, Akihito spots Olivia staring blankly and, alarm flaring, asks, "Are you all right?" She asked him to wait a moment, pinching her fear into a hard knot as she steeled herself against the encroaching darkness. Akihito locks eyes with her, warmth and understanding pouring from his gaze. He seizes the moment and unleashes the points he's been hoarding. A blinding flash rips the air as he yanks open his menu and conjures 3 blazing headlamps from it. Olivia gapes at the lights, breathless, whooping that it's incredible to finally have her hands free. Akihito, too, steels himself and vows to master a new skill before they venture any deeper. Olivia, blazing with new confidence, leapt to her feet and roared, "Let's go." Akihito watches her bounce, every hop crackling with excitement, and notes her spirits are through the roof. He clamps a hand on her arm and warns her not to stray. They don't know what's waiting ahead. Kimmy snaps, "Akihito, you're the one who's going to walk right into a trap." Olivia prowls the cavern, eyes raking the walls for anything she can snag and make into the perfect present. She has no clue what he likes, but she's hellbent on hunting down something that will make him light up. The crude cat statue roars awake, warning them they're now crossing into the level 3 danger zone. Akihito clutches his axe until his knuckles whiten and barks at his companions to keep their eyes peeled for monsters. High above, Olivia's gaze locks onto a faint glimmer nestled in a shadowed crevice. She bursts into the climb, scaling the sheer rock face with a dancer's grace and jaw-dropping agility. She reaches the ledge and her eyes snap to a lone, breathtaking magic stone, pulsing with a fierce, otherworldly light. She held the crystal like a treasure, wrapped as its tender-hued light caressed every flawless facet. She beamed with contentment, convinced this would be the perfect match for Akihito. A dark, menacing shadow barreled in from behind and slammed over her. Down below, Akihito locks eyes on her atop the ledge and bellows her name. His face snaps into a wide-eyed mask of horror the moment he lays eyes on it. A monstrous skeletal spider burst from the shadows right behind unsuspecting Olivia. She whips around at Akihito's cry, eyes blown wide and her face frozen in pure confusion. Akihito's eye twitches, his unique skill snapping awake in a blinding flash of insight. His edibility judgment flared, declaring the bone spider poisonous and exposing its weak spot. His eyes lock onto the vital thread and he roars, "Kimmy, cut it." Kimmy bellows as shimmering magic surges through his body and he rockets into the fray. He snaps at Olivia to hit the deck, then roars at the monster, "You foul beast." The samurai blurs into motion, his katana cleaving through the creature's limbs. Perched high above, Kimmy bellows down to Akihito, the monster's seconds from plummeting. Akihito drops into a fighting stance, flooding his body with power and priming every reflex. His axe's blade flashed as he drew back, coiling to hurl a thunderous, crushing blow. He hurtles downward, driving his axe with bone-crushing force and shattering the spider's skull. Olivia and Kimmy watch from the ledge, breath caught in their throats, as the monster finally crumples. Rocks roar loose and tumble down. Akihito lunges, throwing his body over Olivia as jagged debris rains around them. He hunches over her, his headlamp belching smoke, and asks, "Are you okay?" Their headlamp beams slammed into each other's faces, searing their eyes and making them both flinch. Kimmy jabbed a finger at the exposed rock wall and demanded, "What did we just uncover?" Akihito spots a vein of pink-gold rock salt and whoops, declaring it a lucky find. He crackles with excitement, leaning into the subdued Olivia as he gushes about the mouthwatering feast they can finally cook. Close by, Kimmy gleefully gnaws on one of the spider's cast-off bones. Olivia clutches her chest, breath hitching, as she admits the broth from the bone smells irresistibly delicious. Racked with guilt, Olivia blurts a frantic apology for her reckless choices and the trouble she dragged them into. Akihito snaps his fingers like a pistol blast, eyes blazing, and declares he'll unleash the newly acquired skill. He conjured a brilliant dimensional storage vortex, beaming as he urged them to fling everything inside. They fling hefty chunks of rock salt, whooping as they revel in their shockingly convenient new power. Treasure secured, the crew explodes toward the cave mouth, craving a much-needed break. They burst out triumphant, Kimmy hoisting the heavy bone from their big catch like a champion brandishing a trophy. Frantic Butchai hurtles toward them, yelling that something terrible has happened. He thrusts a trembling finger at the coast, horror ripping through him as a colossal human ship looms into view. Akihito and Olivia froze, silence crushing them as the awful truth hit. Their happy days were gone.